Hello! How are we all doing? I wonder what mood YouTube's in tonight. Say hello to me in the chat. And then I'll wait until Mike gives me a thumbs up. He's looking rather pensive at the moment, but last show of the year, how did that happen? I'm still pondering. I must be there, Mike. Am I there? Because that's the right picture, so you should be able to hear me. I know you can see the right thing, but can you hear me? Apparently you can. Excellent. Right. Oh, hello to everybody in the chat. So many of you. Shall we take it from the top? Oh, Jammy, a quick bath. Really? Really? Honestly, now I've got visions of you sat there in a bathing robe. Oh, hello, Paul. Oh, you're ahead of us. So it's not quite 2023 yet, is it? But you are ahead of us. Hello, Kim. Hello, Carol. Hello, Renee. Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. I heard tell, because I missed this last week, that 2023 is going to be your year of Notion. Let me know what you're doing with it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Who else have we got? Frankie. Hello. Oh, you don't know how long you can stay. Right, well, at least you're here now. So hello and welcome. Oh, no, a name I'm going to struggle with. How am I pronouncing that? Eichdocrates, maybe, from Germany. Well, hello and welcome. You know I'm not good with languages. I can just about manage English. Oh, and VBA. I'm good with VBA, aren't I? And coding languages. But normal languages, no. Not for me. Hello, Pandemonium. And who else have we got in here? Peter. Hello, Peter. Hello, Patience. Oh, good grief. It's moving that fast now. I can't keep up. Croissants Ministries. Oh, now that's an interesting name. Is there a history behind that? And did I say hello to Patience? I hope I did. And who else have we got? Paul. Hello, Paul. Hello, Rudy. And all the ones who don't post but are watching, hello to you as well. You're most welcome. Oh, it's not exactly New Year's Eve. It's usually New Year's Eve when we go live, but it's nearly. It's close enough. It'll do. Good. Now, you see, that's much easier for me. But I'll take not bad. I will take not bad. Right, Jonathan says, you've been rewatching the videos, created an engine room, so far so good. Need to get all the pages and dashboards created. Excellent. Right. Is this full life management we're after? Is this Notion organising everything? It's sounding like it. It's sounding like it. In that case, you might even make it. We won't save the whole show tonight. Obviously, you've got to save some fun for the morning. But maybe halfway. You never know. Fingers crossed. So let's have a look at what we're looking at tonight. Right, press the button. Good grief, it worked. It's amazing. Right, I've got a freebie to start off with because, you know, New Year and all that. Sticky Notepad. It's fairly basic, but it's pretty. I like pretty. And if it does a simple job, and did I mention it's free? It's macOS, but it's free. Then we are having Notion 101. So if you are starting out with Notion, this isn't going to be the what I do bit. That's coming later. But the Notion 101 is an introduction to it, what it can do, and what you might want to use it for. Then I've got 2 freebies. One of them is on the cusp of not being free, so I've got to get to that part so you can get the freebie while it's still free. Then the 2 behind the scenes that I promised, which is behind the scenes of the 2022 MacBites Advent Calendar. So how did we pull that together, basically? Which involves 2 apps and 2 tables in Notion. So that will show you, after you've got the basics of Notion, a pretty advanced setup with relational tables and all kinds of stuff to make it work. I also use Notion for Ship 30 for 30. So I'll show you how I prepared. Ready to ship. We're shipping on the 7th, I believe. I thought it was the 1st, which is a little bit too close for comfort. But I believe it's the 7th that we're shipping. I've left unboxing on there, but I'm lying. I took the slides away. I forgot to update the index. So
you had me worried then.
Yeah, that's more of an idea than something that's actually going to happen, so don't get excited. Oh, come on, it's the end of the year.
Jam is bubble now.
Sorry. Yeah, well, we might have something next week. Who knows? Right, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are receiving in 1080p. You know what YouTube's like. It does like to play with our minds. You can change your quality via the cog in the lower right-hand corner. While you're down there is a like button. We had fun with the like button this week, didn't we? Before the show had even started, we'd had a like, which was grand. And when I looked again, we'd had a dislike. And I thought, at least let us start the show before you dislike it. But then the dislike disappeared. It didn't turn into a like. Well, it actually, truth be told, it did for 5 minutes. And then it vanished again. So, Mike reckons it's YouTube. Again, playing with my mind, but I don't know. But let's stress test it. Let's see how many likes we can get on it. There's an idea. So,
Annie says perhaps you've got a Yule log to unbox, but probably not.
That would be telling. I'm not giving up on my Yule log yet. But let's have a look at the week at MacBites headquarters. Saturday. Oh, Christmas Eve. We love Christmas Eve. We do love Christmas. I have always loved Christmas Eve since I was a child. Much preferred it to Christmas Day. I think it was because traditionally on Christmas Eve, we had a family meal. And family for me I was an only child, so it was just me, mum and dad. So I loved Christmas. Christmas Day had to be on my best behaviour, don't open all those presents at once and don't do this and don't do that. So Christmas Eve, I loved it to start with. Mike grew to love it, which was why when we got engaged on the 24th of December, 1999. We were bringing in the new year, weren't we? And the new millennia and everything else. So we were celebrating on Christmas Eve, but you were with us for our unboxing. I also installed my new toys. If you weren't with us for the unboxing, you need to watch last week's show. But it was basically two 20 terabyte hard drives. You'll notice that they're formatted for NTFS, which is a Windows thing. So that went for a start. But there they were, all humming away nicely. So these were the two drives that I got. So if you're interested in going to have a look at them, I got them when they were on sale, which was, I think it was the Black Friday sale that carried on till the beginning of December. But it's on sale now as well. And there's various capacities. You don't need the 20 terabytes if you don't need 20 terabytes. If there was a 40 terabyte one, I'd have probably gone for two of those. It was the biggest I could find. Now, with it being Christmas Eve, I have a tradition. I think Mike has seen this film. He just doesn't watch it as often as I do. But every Christmas Eve, I sit down to the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol, which is actually titled Scrooge in the UK. But while I was watching it this year, I got curious. So there was a couple of scenes in it in particular. This one is Scrooge walking home on Christmas Eve where he sees Marley at the door. And I thought, I wonder where these were filmed. Was it a set or was it real? So off I went on a hunt doing the Googles. It was real. And it's one of the locations that's still there today. In fact, I can't believe the angle they took this at because the building is beautiful. That was it in 1951. That is it today. Look at those statues. Isn't it amazing? Utterly amazing. The only changes that I can really see are the gate between the two buildings where it was a fence and the thing, it's like a security thing, isn't it, over the basement windows. But other than that, it's identical. I spent longer, trust me when I say it's identical, because I spent longer staring at it than was wise. And the other bit that I found that still exists, most of it does not exist anymore, unfortunately. But the other bit that did was the very final scene, which was an alleyway. And I must admit, I thought that was in Lincoln's Inn Field, because there is an area in there that looks very similar to that, but it's not. But I did find it. It's still there. Even the white building at the end is still there. So I had a ball looking up these filming locations. Amazing. Right. What happened next was, did I mention Christmas Eve? Midnight Mass happened. Obviously, I didn't leave the house, but this was the end of Midnight Mass at our church, which is at 1 mile up the road. You're wondering why I'm showing you this. I'll explain. If you remember, I spotted something, and I spotted something there as well. Our branding for After Hours, our Christmas branding with our reindeer and our sleigh, we've had this for 5 years. If you remember at the beginning of December, I had a freebie and it was a Christmas carol and it looked suspiciously like my reindeer. Later on in December, there was another one, not even kidding, and these aren't me. Are these looking familiar? I even then got a mail from some stock site, and this was the image that was on their email. And I'm thinking, all these reindeer are going the wrong way, you know. They're going from left to right. They should be going the other way, but never mind. So what does that have to do with Midnight Mass? Take a closer look. That's the priest's jumper, the priest being the one in the black, with golden reindeer pulling a sleigh. I'm sending a bill for copyright infringement. But that was my Christmas Eve. It was a very busy day. Sunday, of course, was Christmas Day. Yay! Yes, I was busy on the socials at midnight. As soon as midnight happened, I was there. And this was why I survived Whamageddon again. Do you know I still haven't heard it this year?
Oh.
We had our special Christmas Eve meal and Mike had the A lady on. And I said, and it was on a radio station, and I said, could we possibly, he said, it's fine, we'll put an ABBA playlist on, because I didn't want to fail at Whamageddon. If you're wondering what Whamageddon is, you have to avoid hearing Last Christmas for the first 24 days of December. And I did it last year and I did it this year. So I was celebrating online. Now, we then, of course, had our gifts, didn't we? What spotting a Christmas gift looks like. Look at that. Ears down, nose up, complete focus. They've got something, and she knew it. Just before we move on, behind her head, there's a brown box. It stood on top of another brown box, and it's industrial-sized boxes of Dentastix. But that wasn't her Christmas present. No. She found her Christmas present. Just look at that face. You know, go for it. Terrifying the humans with uncontrolled teeth and a manic glare that Jack Nicholson in The Shining would have been proud of. That's just a bonus. And if you're wondering, it's a treat called a rancho. That was only the start of it, however. The next one's a bit blurred, but, you know, in my defence, both me and the camera couldn't keep up with her. That's a misfit, isn't it? Yeah, and she went for that, as you can see. We obviously don't feed the dog. She just has to beg, bless her. She's fed, trust me. Then she was back to the ranchos again. And eventually, and it took quite a few, she was, again, blurred. That was nice anymore. So she's had a great Christmas. Never mind the toys, just feed me the food. Just keep giving me the food and she'll be fine. Which took us to Monday. So this was late Christmas night going into what we call Boxing Day. Let me know, do you call it Boxing Day? It's the 26th, St. Stephen's Day or Boxing Day, but most people call it Boxing Day. Traditionally, it was when you used to unbox your gifts. That's where it came from. But it was the very beginning of that day when disaster struck, and I mean disaster struck. No internet. This isn't good at any time. I noticed because I had no email. It just wouldn't load. And I was trying desperately to watch some YouTube stuff, and it was telling me there was no internet connection. Lovely. But it was fine, thinks I. That's all right. MacBites Siri can take the strain. I'll hook into my personal hotspot. It worked. As you can see, it was 25 past midnight. It worked, but not that well. I swear it used to work better years ago, which you agreed with, didn't you? You used to be able to just hook into your personal hotspot and that would take over. Now you've got to disconnect all kinds of stuff to make it work. By the time I'd done that and I'd tried to carry on working, I thought, you know what, just give it up. Unusually for me, I was in bed by 1:15, grumpy. If I was grumpy at 1:15, you can imagine how grumpy I was at 7:30 in the morning when I had to get up and deal with it, because I just assumed I've taken a very mature attitude of late, haven't I? If it's broken, leave it for a day and see if it's all right tomorrow. And you know, that works 9 times out of 10. Didn't work with this one. So by 7:30 I was up again dealing with it, trying to make it work, because at that stage Mike had no internet because he was up at 7:30 trying to work. But I fixed it and we were back online. Everything needed rebooting, didn't it? I think they'd done a remote update, which was rather stupid Christmas Day, but that was what they did. Which took us to Tuesday. Oh, we were excited. It was the last supermarket delivery of the year. It was Asda. We had high hopes. Needless to say, despite one last try, no Yule log. But never fear. They did recommend getting the Easter order in early. Do you think they do Easter logs?
Probably not.
No, because it needs to be gluten-free. This is the problem. Now, Boxing Day is also the day... no, it wasn't Boxing Day. Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's the day when the Premier League starts again. And it was rather good, that, wasn't it?
It was.
I am taking full credit for the final goal. They were winning 2-0, and I didn't see the way the match was going, that we were in any danger at all. But the toilet trick was deployed and we got a third, and I'm taking full credit for it. So I'll send them details of my bank account and they can deposit. What is it the players are on at the minute? About £380,000 a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could do what they did for that. In fact, I'm claiming that goal. So I'll send them the bill. Wednesday, we were sort of a busman's holiday, enjoying myself, but creating something that will eventually appear for you guys. So it's the Affinity Photo for iPad Secrets. We've got the publisher one. We've got the designer one. The photo one is longer. And the photo one, now the others need to be rewritten. Because despite the fact we've only had a tiny point update, they've changed half the interface. So I was busy doing that. Thursday, I was still busy, but I was plotting and planning something new for the new year, which is going to be a deep dive on Eagle. We've done bits of Eagle, but Eagle is amazing. Not only on Thursday was I sorting out what I would be sharing about Eagle, but I was actually updating my entire work in progress database, which is the one that I use for the shows. Oh, all sorts. There's 6,500 images in it. And it flies. So that's what I was doing Thursday. Friday, Lola was out. You're going to need to zoom in on this one, but she was out. There she is, down in the left corner. You may not spot it. Let's zoom in. The reindeer had had one too many and was taking a nap. I love the fact that it's lying down, but it's still lit up. So it's not broken or anything, is it?
No, it's not broken.
No, it was still working. Just lying down and having a bit of a rest was the reindeer. So that was our week. Let me know what's gone on in your week. Right, app that I talked about. I was searching for something, really looking for what's out there for sticky notes. So Notion is at one end of the spectrum in terms of organisation and effort required to be organised. This app is at the complete other end. So rather than, you could create a kind of faux sticky notes thing of your own. You could have a page in Obsidian. You could have a page in Notion. You could have something separate, or you could have a tag in Evernote. But this is a totally separate app, and it is very pretty. It's very smooth. It's amazing because most people get really uppity with software and like to criticise it. But when I looked at this one, people love it, which is crazy. 18 ratings, all of them 5 stars, because it is actually pretty basic, but people love it. So I thought I would share this. So I've got it installed. I will show you. This is what is in the App Store with it. You can see it is beautifully designed. And I think that goes a long way with people. To putting them in a good mood when they go in and put reviews on there. But I'll admit, I thought that's pretty. And that's why I installed it, to give it a go. Be warned, it's fairly basic, but it's pretty. And if it's what you need, and even if you are using something else, you could be using, like me, I'm using Obsidian for personal stuff, I'm using Notion for shared stuff. But there are occasions when I have a drawer full of Post-it notes and I drag it out and I scour around for a pen and make a note. And now find another way to do that, basically, so it's captured, because anything could happen. I've spilt tea all over my notebooks before today, which is fine if you're using ballpoint pens, not quite so good if you're not. So let's have a look at it. Right, I don't even have it running, but I will show you that if you're on a Mac, you already have a sticky notes app called Stickies. It's very capable. It's way more capable than it looks, but it's not pretty. It isn't pretty. Whereas Sticky Notepad is very pretty. So, where are you opening? Oh, on the wrong screen. Fair enough. Let's bring it back. So this is what it looks like when you've installed it from the App Store. So it's telling you on the left-hand side you've got no notes, and on the right-hand side you can create a new note. There's actually two buttons for creating new notes. You've got this button at the top which creates a new one, and the big new note creates a new note as well. It has also put up here, which I've got hidden at the moment, but it also adds, let's go have a look at it. Come on. You do want to show me. You know you do. There we go. Oh, you've disappeared again. Oh, come on. There we go. Have a think about it. It puts this on here as well. So you can get to it from there. Oh, isn't it slow? It's like moving in episodes. But this is the main window to manage the thing. So make a new note. That puts the note in the right-hand side, and it puts an indicator of the note in the left-hand side. You can then just start typing. There is nothing great in the way of preferences. If we go into the preferences, you can change the font, you can change the size of it and the line height of it. But there's no bold or italic or underline or linking or anything clever like that either. It's really quite basic. You've got the option to match the system or go light or dark. You can hide the dock icon, which I've done because if something like this is running from the menu, then I don't want it in the dock. And you can have it start at login, but that is it for the preferences. I think it would be nice if you could choose the colours. I think it would be nice with the bold, italic and underline, but it's pretty and basic, or it's basic and it's pretty, depending on how you look at it. Right, so the kind of thing I would put in here is, for example, I was putting in sizes of posters that I was working on. I just wanted to have that, and what I would do with it is put it on a post-it note. But that was a new size of image that I needed, so I would just put that in here. You've then got some options over here. So this looks like a jumper to me, but it's the theme. Now, you could think the theme is where you've chosen to match the system, go dark or go light. But no, it's actually the theme for this note. Now, there's weirdness going on in here as well. In terms of, you've got a tick in the lemon, which is what it is at the moment. You move across and you get a tick in whatever colour you apply. But you'll notice that the tick is still there in the lemon. So if I click away and I then go back into this, it's actually gone from the lemon. If I move these around, it doesn't stay there. So I think that's just a visual glitch that's there. But I must admit, I do prefer my lemon. But that's what's available from here. Then you've got the three dots, and that is where you manage the note. So you can delete it from here, you can duplicate it from here, and you can pop it out from here, which is only one of the ways you can pop it out. But popping the note out takes it out of here in terms of it's now showing on the desktop. And you could close that, and this then stays. You can close this back to the interface. You can pin it so it stays on the top, which is incredibly useful when it's stuff like this and I'm referring to it. You can also, from in here, apply different colours. And you now have the opacity slider as well. So you can make it semi-transparent, which is really the background that you're doing that with, rather than the text that's on it. So you could take that all the way and end up with something that looks weird. Just really weird. But you have those options in there. So let's take that back to the lemon. You have this option, which is to make a new note. Now, because this one's on the top, that one then appears behind it. But if you click in the right place, you can then pull it out and put it next to it, and so forth. That's about it, to be honest. But let's put in here a second note. And we can close that one down, close that one down. Obviously now, no interface. If we go back into it and do the sticky notepad thing, it comes back. The other way you could do it is to use the menu in the top right. You can now see what's happening in here. The newer notes appear at the top. And the notes that aren't selected, the ones that are not active, have a stripe indicating the colour that they are. And next to each one, you've got the ability to pop it out again. and it remembers that it's, hang on, it remembers that it's pinned. As I'm hovering over here, is it there or further down? That's popping up is another app. That is Moom. So you probably wouldn't be seeing that. But you would go in there, take the tick out, and then if you put anything across it, the thing you put across it will be on the top, not behind it. So it's pretty basic, but it's one of those things that is, it is pretty, it's smooth. Does it need any more features? I would like bold, italic and underline and strike through when I've done something. I think the thing is, if you start adding things like that, you're then going to say, oh, I'd like it to have to-dos, so I could check off a to-do, and then it starts getting carried away with itself. But just for plain notes, that might work for you. Depends what you're doing. For me, the key feature that would make this worthwhile is the float over. So I would have a list of sizes that I was working with. What was the other one I was working with? 1590 by 1000. So I was constantly referring to these because they were new measurements, and to be able to pin that over the top of Affinity Designer while I was making the world's most complicated template was incredibly useful. So what do you think? Is that good, bad or indifferent? Oh, I see we've got conversations now about who signed up with what. Michael, sort it all out, won't you?
I'm sorting it.
Excellent, excellent. The problems with apps like these, they really need to be considered to be just tiny utilities. There's no way this is synchronizing with the notes on another machine or any of that stuff. But anything that can do all of that is probably going to provide more friction at the point that you're trying to just make a note. All I needed was those things on there. And what I did was, when I'd done it, I like moved them down in there. Once I'd done it, I didn't want to delete it, but I did go to the top and I did cut that and move to the bottom and know that that one was done. So not perfect, not by any way. Obsidian can do a million times more than that. So can Evernote, so can Notion. But if you need a tiny window floating over another app while you reference the stuff in there, that's the way to go. So, and it's totally free. So you know.
Patience likes it.
If it's totally free, it's worth having a look at. Like I say, the built-in one is incredibly powerful, but it's fiddly to work with. It does not. It looks like it's got the OS 9 interface. It's that bad. This one, way more basic, but very pretty. It'd be nice if we could have a combination of the two, but there you go. So a nice freebie to start with. It's worth having a look at. You can never have too many apps. That's what I say anyway. Right, so let's move on to the Notion 101. If you've been with us years and years and years, we have done, was it 2 or 3? It was 2, wasn't it?
2, I think.
We did 2 massive series on Notion. So one was Notion 2020 and the other was Notion 2021. And I'm talking massive, I'm talking like 13-week extravaganzas, so probably about 16, 17 hours worth of content. With this one, I'm going right back to the beginning because I'm assuming there are people who have never tried Notion, never heard of Notion. And another reason for doing it is that Notion has changed since then, radically. In the last 2 years, it was quite slow at the beginning. And last January, there was no way I could have done a Notion 2022 because Notion was down more than it was up, which was how come I ended up with a local solution in Obsidian for my stuff. And then I transferred that from Obsidian into Notion once it had calmed down. And once it got to February, it had calmed down. Notion, in terms of improvements, has been a bit fits and starts. They've added little bits as they've gone along. But I will say in the last 3 months, it's been more regular in terms of updates. So there's lots of features in there now you won't find in those old recordings because they just weren't there. But I thought before we had a look at that, I would try and explain what Notion is, because a lot of people have in their mind the phrase, I'm looking for a notes app, is Notion good? Before we get any further, is Notion a notes app? Notion never said they were a notes app. When it came out, people took one look at it And there were lots of videos made, there were lots of chats on podcasts, there were lots of articles written about how Notion is an Evernote killer. We're back to that again, that for one application to be good, the other one has to be bad. And I don't stick to that at all. But what I will say is not all Notes apps are made equal, even if they are Notes apps. And I wouldn't say that Notion is a Notes app. You can make it be a Notes app if you want, but it could do a lot more. And whether you choose to go down that route or not is up to you. But Notion gives you a path for growth. So if your needs develop, you could stay in the app that you're in and just tweak it slightly in terms of building it. Whereas a strict Notes app like Simple Note or Google Keep, there's nowhere to go. Once you've mastered all of the features that are in there, you can't suddenly say, well, now I'll turn it into a database and I'll do this, because it doesn't support it. So think of Notion as a Meccano kit. You can build what you like with it, but the thing is, you have to build it. There's a couple of features that will help you. There's lots and lots of free templates. But in essence, if you want something that's perfect for you, then you're going to have to accept that you're going to have to build it. So we wanted a way. The first thing we did with it was MacBites, because we'd been all over the place with how we put together MacBites. We started using Notion in 2018, which was exactly the same time we started doing After Hours. And it's having Notion that enables us to do After Hours. If we didn't have Notion to track everything, where I'm putting links in and Mike's got access to the links, and I'm putting the notes in and Mike's got access to the notes, and I know when the last show was, when the next show is, and when the one 3 months from now is, then we wouldn't be able to do it. The admin would be far too much. It would be far too onerous on top of what we already do. So we were able to increase our output because we had this system. But we couldn't go to the template library and say, download me a MacBites manager, download me a live stream manager, because there wasn't one. But all of the tools were there to build one. So you can build anything. You might think that's a Meccano kit. Locally, that is a full-size bridge on the border of Bury and Bolton. And it's a Meccano bridge. It's actually built of huge pieces of Meccano. So that's exactly what I mean. Now, when you start with any app, you will have perfection in your mind. You're going to build the best home ever for all of your information. I would advise against that. Seriously against it. It only needs to be good enough. Good enough is good enough. You can change it later, but good enough is good enough. Working on the principle of Gall's law, which is any system that works, a complex system, will have evolved from a simpler system, and that simpler system will have worked. So back to the perfection that you're after, forget it. Don't even give it a second thought. Just create a starting point that does just enough. And then tweak it, tweak it, tweak it until you get to perfection. That's exactly what we've done. We did not start off with where we are in mind. And when you see the setup that we've got, I don't want you to think, well, one, look what they've got. I could do that in 5 minutes. Because it's been 4 years and we're still tweaking. Literally, we've got a status plus field now. We always had a status field, but Notion changed how it worked. So we had to add another field and then update it and play with it. So perfection is iterative. You never reach a point where it's done. You reach a point where it's perfect for now. But then either Notion will add a feature, your requirements will change, and you will need to tweak it. The good news is, if you think of Notion as rapid prototyping, where you can create something that works really quickly, and the same something can be tweaked into something else, that's the right mindset to have. So Notion is a set of tools. It's a Meccano kit. By all means, dream of perfection, but don't attempt to build it on your first attempt. Just build something that works. So let's have a look at Notion. Do we have any questions at that point, Mike?
Yes.
Go on.
We have one from Jamie, who wanted to know if the sticky notes thing is on iOS And I don't think that one is.
No, not that I'm aware of, no. It looks like, to me, somebody who is a newish developer who's put together something that looks amazingly pretty. Maybe they'll add extra features to it down the line, but I don't think it because if it was on iOS, the next question would be, oh, can I synchronize the notes? And then that gets complicated. So no, I don't think it is there yet. Whether it will be down the line, I don't know.
And we need to say a very big thank you to Kim.
Oh, right, do we?
Yes.
Go on, why?
Kim has made a donation.
Oh, good grief, I can see it at the top now. Kim, that's amazing. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated. That is very, very kind. Okay, is that it?
Yes.
Why didn't that? Oh, there it is in bright red. Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Right, so this is Notion. This is a demo account. So you can see at the top it says MacBites Demo. When we started this MacBites Demo account had 1,000 blocks for free, and that was it. But we could collaborate with as many people as we wanted. That's one of the things they've changed. Now, with this demo account, I've got as many blocks as I like. I can't collaborate with anybody. So the reason I'm telling you that is, you won't, if you've already got Notion, then you're probably familiar with this view. If you haven't, there will be some kind of onboarding. I can't really say what that's like because I onboarded years ago. But it will be a guide to guide you through it. But I'm going to show you the interface. I'm going to show you all of the stuff that you can do with it. So what I did was, before we started, because I've used this demo account before, was I created a page called Archive. And I stuck all the detritus in it that we've demoed before. All of that lot out of the way. So I'm going to assume with this that maybe you're coming from something like Evernote, which may have notebooks and pages and sections within notebooks and things like that. Right, the way it works with Notion, it is an online service. Your data lives in the cloud. There is a local app, and there is a local app for iOS, Android. There's an app for Windows. They are Electron apps, which some people absolutely loathe. It just means it's faster for them to write them, basically. And some Electron apps are absolutely amazing, the things that they can do. Notion haven't taken it to that level, but I prefer to use it in a browser. My main reason for doing that was the app didn't have multiple tabs, but that's one of the things they've addressed. So in the app, you could have multiple pages open in that app without having to have multiple windows, which is amazing. So what you've got in here at the very top, this is your account. And if you click on that, it will show you that it's a free plan, one member. You can create a work account, another account, log out, get the Mac app, etc. So that is your account information. The search is a global search across everything. Let's see what Mike thinks. But I think don't rely on that. Try and create some kind of structure. Do you find when you're searching for stuff, it brings back things that are totally irrelevant?
Yes.
Brings back far too much stuff rather than too little. The search could be stronger. You may feel at the beginning, don't know what she was talking about, this is awesome, it works great. But it's one of those situations where the more you put in it, the less well it works. So think about structure because of the search. The updates are updates for all your pages. So it will give you a history of the changes that you've made to the pages. I'm all caught up with the inbox stuff here. These are the things. Now, you see, these are like these. This is what I've done. I've deleted this and I've created that and so forth. Right? This is the history of what I've done. Most of this in here with following and inboxes and stuff is going to be empty in this account because there's only me in it, or there's only the MacBites demo in it. And then this is the stuff that you've archived. I hardly ever go in there, but Mike does go in it quite a bit and says that that's how he gets to comments that I've made and stuff. I don't really do that. Then we've got the settings and members. So this is all to do with your account. So again, you've got your account at the top, you've got the notifications, you've got all kinds of stuff in here. So I haven't uploaded a photo for this one and all the other stuff in there. I haven't created a password. It logs in by sending you a code. So I've not done any of that. I've not put the notifications on. Oh, I have. I've got 2 of these on. But obviously nothing's happening because there's only me in there. But if it was a shared situation like Mike and I, then in there you would set those to what makes sense to you. Then you've got your connections. Your connections are connections to other services. So one of the things with Notion is the integrations with it. And the things that I want it integrated with are not easy to do. So if it had an integration with Google Calendar, that would be amazing. But while it can be done, you've got to go through hoops to do it. But there are integrations in here, as you can see. Those are the 3 it's recommending. But if you go to show all, you've got all kinds of integrations. So if I wanted to pull files in from Dropbox or OneDrive, or connect to Figma diagrams, or link to Zoom stuff, I can do all of that. I don't tend to use that much, I'll be honest. But I can see that is where how useful it would be to be working in Notion if you could bring in your information, your data from elsewhere. The one thing that would help me is the calendars, and that's not listed there as easy. You have to connect to something else and then get the something else to connect to the calendar. You can set your language and regions. So obviously mine is set to English, and I prefer the week to start on a Monday. I'm not sure about this earn credit thing, to be honest. Apparently I've got $13. Who knew? I think the basic credit's still there, but they're not referrals anymore. These are things that you can do to earn credit. It's not you referring other people. They took that out of here and they put it elsewhere. Then you've got the settings for your workspace. So what icon you want, what the domain's called, if you're sharing things publicly. So all of this will make more sense when you can see what we're doing with it. But these are where the settings are. As I said, you can add members, but as soon as you start adding members, then you need some kind of business account, and then that wouldn't be free. You can have some people collaborating, and that is free. But if you actually want to add them to give them some degree of ownership of their content, then that's where it starts to need to be paid for. So here's your upgrade options. These are the new ones. There used to be 3. There was free, team and enterprise. And now there is free plus, which is $8 a month, business at $15 and enterprise at $20. This one here, that's completely free, if it's only you using it, then you never need to pay. You can have up to 10 guest collaborators, but you can see here, it's unlimited for individuals. You get a limited block trial for 2 or more members. So it's a trial. And the rest of it is things like how many collaborators you can have, how many uploads, the size of the uploads, how long your page history sits there. But I think most people, if there's only you, I would think you would get away with using it completely for free. I don't have any billing information in here because this is a demo account. You've got security in here, so you need to upgrade anyway. And then there's domain management and the connections, where your connection to all these things. So I think I connected to these 2, didn't I? Just to demo it. I connected to 2. Right, that's the behind the scenes stuff. The stuff you're interested in is in here. So the unit that you work with in Notion is a page. So this is where it's got the page icon. It says untitled. So this is me just creating a page. You can see it was created 17 hours ago when I was sorting it out for tonight. And that's it. I have created another page that I called Archive. And what I did with it was just drag and drop the stuff in it that I'm not interested in tonight. That was purely to tidy it up. So if you're coming to this as a notes app, you may be tempted to put some notes in there. That would be fine if that's what you want to do. So my notes, and you start putting your notes in. You click and you can just type your notes. So the content of my notes. And as you're looking at that, you're thinking, it looks very similar to Evernote. I'm fine, I'm comfortable. I know what I'm doing. The problem is it's going to get away from you very quickly. Now you need some more notes. What do you do? Well, over here you have the option to create more pages, or as you can see from this, you can add a page inside another page. So you don't particularly create a folder on the left, you just have pages on the left, but you can have nested pages. So I could add in there And now I've got a nested one. Now this is talking about how I view this page, so we're going to look at that shortly. Don't need it in a minute. So this is my second note. And then I would put some content in with it. So content of second note. And then I'd be clicking away. Right, what does that look like? Well, my first note was here. My second note is nested inside it. I can see that in the sidebar, and I can see it in here. When I click it in there, it takes me into my second note, and it gives me my breadcrumb trail that my top level is my notes, and then I've got my second note. Now, if you are moving from Evernote, or if you are familiar with Evernote, you may know Evernote has notes that live inside notebooks. Notebooks live inside stacks, and that's it. You can't nest the stacks, you can't nest the notebooks, you can't nest notes inside other notes. But in here, you could keep going. And so inside my second note, I could embed my third note, and in my third one, I could embed my fourth one. Is that wise? I'd say not, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Structure-wise, it needs to make sense to you. So if you're thinking in terms of notebooks, then maybe that first note, instead of saying my notes, maybe that would be my notebook. And then all of my notes would be in here. So working in this page, I would then seek to add another page. And I can do that with the /. In fact, the / is the key to adding anything in here. So I press the / and up comes blocks. Notion is a block-based app. So you will find there are plain text apps, there's graph-based apps, database-based apps. This is block-based. So every piece of content in here is a block. So I could add some text, I could add another page, I could add a to-do item, I could put a heading in. Doesn't matter what I'm putting in, the / key is the access point to all of it. So what I wanted was a page for my third note, if you remember. So if I just type page, it filters the basic blocks list and page is at the top. And I can just click there. You can see I'm still in my notebook and now I'm on untitled, this being my third note. So let's put third note as the title. Click in there and then put my notes in there. So notes for third note. Now, I haven't nested the third note inside the second. Both of these are in this notebook, which is at the top level. And then underneath it, I have the second one and the third one. If I wanted to, though, I could. So if I hover to the left of one of the items, one of the blocks, it says drag to move or click to open. Then click to open is click to open the menu. So if I grabbed this note, I could move it. I could move it inside my second note. And now I've created a hierarchy. Over here, I would have to open that and I can see my third note and I can click it. Look at the breadcrumb trail. Third note, second note, my notebook. So while you could treat this as Evernote, you are hampering yourself down the line. Can you imagine Mike and I trying to manage MacBites like that? So we'd have a top level of MacBites and then the second level might be MacBites After Hours and the third level would be the number of the show. I mean, it's doable if that's how you want to do it. But this kind of structure that most people instantly understand and instantly create isn't scalable. It really isn't scalable. Just to give you some idea in case you've never seen it, I'll bring another window on. We are going to see this down the line, but I will bring this window on just to show you the kind of thing we've got going on. So this is what our live system looks like for real. So we've got navigation down this side. That's not the sidebar. The sidebar is over there. And usually I have that folded up. Yeah, I would just have it looking like that. That's the sidebar, but I don't use it because I don't need to. When I'm in MacBites mode, which is MacBites 2.0, underneath Giles Thomas, I create my own menu over here. Now, you can't see all of it, That's to do with my screen resolution, but I can take the size down so we can see it all. So that's what it looks like for real. If I'm working on the after hours shows, then I need to go to the after hours in here. And now let's look at 2022, 2023. Not that one, that one. And there they are. So there's none of this clicking in a page and then clicking in another page and clicking in another page. This is not what you could do in Evernote. This is not, oh, I've got a Notes app. So if you're thinking Notion is a Notes app, it can be used like that, but it can also be used like this. So that's why I'm showing you that. Now, if you'd like something like that, you've no idea how to go about it, I have good news for you. There are templates, and these are supplied by Notion. So down here in the sidebar, view the templates. These are amazing. You'll notice in here that these are database based. These aren't just pages, they're database based. I would say in here, all of them are database based. So one thing you could do is sit and take weeks and learn how to do it. Or you could create one of these templates and work from it. So we'll come back and we'll look at one of these down the line. But let's get back to this one. In fact, we'll go back up to the top. We'll simplify all of this. We'll go in here and get the third note and drag it up to my notebook. And now we are back to just 2 levels. So the reason I'm showing you this is, I never use this. I never do this stuff where I've got a page and I'm moving it and I'm nesting it. No. Because if it's something that there's more than one of, so in this case it's notes, MacBites After Hours shows, they're in a database. They're in a table and they're all organised, and there's a lot more going on than just this notes thing. But so many people say to me, oh, should I use Evernote or should I use Notion? That's like, should I use a knife or should I use a fork? They work better together. So each one has a superpower. And I think while Notion can be used as plain, it's just my notes, you're underutilising it. It can do a whole lot more. Whether you need it to do a whole lot more or not is a completely different question. If you have, didn't you have at one point 60 notes in Evernote?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was less.
And I had 15,000.
Yes, you said, oh, bless.
And I said, oh, bless. And then Mike was looking for something in Notion and he couldn't find it, in Evernote, and couldn't find it. And I said, are you kidding me? You know, with that many notes, you could eyeball it, but he couldn't find the thing. So in Notion, you're putting a structure in place. In Evernote, you're probably not. You've probably got a handful of notebooks, and if the note is in relation to your basket weaving course, then that note goes in there. Notion gives you a whole, I won't even say another level to go at. It gives you levels and depths to which you can go to the nth degree, but think back to what are you building? Just make it good enough and then improve it. So let's look at the contents that we've got, and then we'll look at a template. So if I go into my second note here, this is my actual note. So let's say I'm putting some notes in about Notion or Evernote or whatever. So it's my comparison of notes apps. Right, so /, it would make sense to have a H1. So if I start typing, it filters that out and it gives me the H1, the 2 and the 3. You've even got toggle headings in there, which we'll look at. But at the minute, this would be a heading 1. So I put in a heading 1. Right, so let's say I'm researching Evernote. Right, then I come on to my second thing. So let me think about this. I'm researching it. What's the price? So I'm going to put the price in. But I want that to be a heading. So I should have put that in as a heading 2. Now, I think it should turn that into a heading 2. But it doesn't, and it annoys me. So let's do that, heading 2, and then put the text in. So I'm researching the price. So I come down. Right, let's say I'm going to make 3 points about the price. And I want one to be, let's say they're bullet points. A couple of ways to do that. You can either use the slash menu and start typing in there a bulleted list. Or, much quicker way, just put a minus sign and a space. And it will convert it into that. So I have no idea what the prices of Evernote is at the moment. I know there's a level 1, a level 2 and a level 3, isn't there? There's the old one, there's personal, there's professional, whatever there is. And then move down. If you don't want that to be a bulleted list anymore, you press enter again. That takes you back. And now I want maybe a feature comparison. So /H2 enter, and it gives me another heading. So this one might be my feature comparison. And this time, maybe I want to put in a list of features, then put a tick if it's got it. So I could /, and I do believe it's a to-do list if you want it to have a checkbox. And that gives you that, and then you put that in there. So let's say I want automatic backups or something. And if you want to change that, no. What have you done now? That's it. It's Command and Enter. And Command and Enter to undo it, which I like because in that case you are there and you don't have to take your hands off the keyboard. So what other stuff have we got in here? Just use the / and just go up and down the list. So we've looked at text, that's where you just type. That creates a nested page. There's a to-do list. There's the 3 headings. There's a basic table. So if you are doing a comparison of features, you could put in a basic table. A basic table is not a database. It's a basic table, and that was added about a year ago. Then there's a bulleted list that we've looked at. There's numbered list, if you want a numbered list. Toggles are handy. Toggles are great. If you put a toggle in, all right, you may put a question for yourself. So say you are learning French. What is the French for cat? And you put the answer inside here. So you put the answer in there and then fold it up. So students use this extensively. I thought that was great, but I thought it'd be better if they were headings so I could fold things up. So for instance, my price here, if I didn't want to see the prices, but I wanted them there, they did bring that in eventually. So if I go into here and I put toggle, not only do I get the toggle list, I also get the toggle headings, the 1, the 2 and the 3. So let me put that toggle heading in. Right, we'll call that toggle heading. You need to open that up, which you can do with Command and Enter, but it doesn't put the insertion point in there. That annoys me. Right, things to be hidden inside the toggle, like that. If you already have the heading, like this price heading, click to show the menu and choose Turn Into, and these are all the things that you can turn that into. And the one I would have wanted is the level 2 heading toggle. It's already a heading 2, but I want it to be a toggle heading 2. And now I've got the same information, but I can fold it up. I'm reckoning you don't fold anything up, do you?
No.
No. No, Mike just likes to see everything.
Only shirts and towels.
Oh, yes, you're very good at that. So the toggles are useful, but I think the toggles are even more useful when you're toggling at a header level. Right, what else have we got in here that we might be interested in? You can put a quote in, which just visually puts something there. So we could be talking about Gall's law. And I tend to put, well, this one would be from Gall, wouldn't it? So it looks like that. You can in there, if you hold the shift key, make that on 2 lines. So if I wanted my thing at the bottom with Gall rather than there, you'd use the shift key. And it displays with that thing at the side. That's actually quite important because if you copy and paste out of here, it will copy and paste out the fact that it is a quote. It uses Markdown for that. So there's another type of data that you can put in there. Right, slash and back in here. I think I probably have used all of these at some point. The ones I think are great are the callouts. The callouts are fantastic. So if you've got an idea about something, you can put in there, you know, my brilliant idea. You can change this if you want. So you can totally change how that thing looks like. But if I click on there, you can see these icons are for the callouts. So you can change it to any one of these. So if it was the fact that it was a question rather than an idea, you could change it. Obviously, that makes more sense for it to be that. You can also, which I think is absolute genius, you can change the colour of it. So if you change the background colour of it, it just makes it stand out much, much better. And I have always loved those because they break up your notes and make your notes easier. Sometimes, I got some notes this week from a guy who was sharing some notes he'd made on a book, and it was in Google Docs. And it was just, I looked at it and I thought, these are book notes, are they? It was just like a wall of text. It was just blah, 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 blah. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, good grief. Could you not have put some toggles in? Could you not have put some call outs in? It breaks it up and it makes it easier for you to comprehend what it is.
Actually, I do fold things up.
Oh, he's woken up.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just realised in my checklist for my recordings, I have headings and I have the checklist items within them.
Did I help you with that?
Yes.
Thought I might have done. It does make it easier, though, because you don't want to focus on it. So one thing I did for Mike this week, you've had the devil's own job fighting with the orange dot, haven't you? The orange dot you can see on your screen right now. If you look in my top right corner, there's a clock, there's a time, there's 2 sliders, and there's an orange dot. Yeah, I hate that orange dot. That orange dot is courtesy of Apple, and what it's there for is to visually tell me that something's accessing a microphone. You don't say. You know, me live broadcasting and you hearing me and stuff, you don't say. You cannot get rid of it without disabling SIP. Mike, however, is recording on Windows, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that orange dot was coming through on Windows. And, you know, it might take up 3 pixels on the screen, but it's the first thing somebody will say, what's that orange dot in the corner? So we were looking for a way to work around it. And we came up with 17 ways, and then we needed the one that was right. And Mike's busy making notes. We reached a point where there was a plan A, do that, but there was also a plan B. And I think, Mike, you were probably tempted to delete it because the plan A should work. And I said, don't delete it, put it down as a plan B, but put it in a toggle and toggle it. So it was a call out and it was a toggle. So basically he didn't have in here, 5 steps for plan B. It was all folded up neat and tidy. If he ever needs it, that's the time to open it. But other than that, you don't need to see it because there's just cognitive overload if there's too much. So while making notes like this is all very well, my notes don't look like that. My notes are broken up into chunks. And I access the bits that I want. They just look better, which I will show you how to do when I've shown you what else we've got in here. Things like inline mentions or just putting an emoji in or an inline equation, you would use those as and when you need to. Databases are the big differentiating feature in Notion. And you can see in here that you can create a database with a table view, a board view, a gallery view, a list view, calendar view. They're all the same. It's just a starting point. It doesn't matter which one of these you choose. A database can be shown in any one of these views. So you've seen a table view. You've seen the table view for After Hours. It was a list of them. We will be looking at stuff that have a gallery view, a list view. I'll show you a calendar view if you want. And then you've got these things where a database is in line with other content, or whether the database is a full page thing. You've also got then going underneath, you've got media, so you can add images to this, you can create bookmarks, add videos. I will show you a video just to prove the point. So here is again my real system, and there is last week's show, which I will open. When I open last week's show, it's got all the stuff in that we do for show management. And there is the recording. There it is. So that's what it looks like when you embed a video. I also have the content items that we did last week. And I've got the slides in. So there's all the images. That is a database. You can see it's set to gallery. It could be a table. It doesn't look very thrilling as a table though, does it? But all I do with that is export the slides as images, drag and drop them in. I drag and drop them into table view, and then switch to gallery view, and there's all my slides. That is easier for me to eyeball if I'm thinking, I did that a couple of weeks ago. Which show was it? I can eyeball these, and Mike has no access to my PowerPoint slides. So Mike can also come in here and say it was slide number 17 on such and such a date. So that's a database. That's what it looks like. Now, could you do that in Evernote? You could drag and drop the slides in, and you'd probably end up with one slide and then like a carriage return and another slide and so forth. You wouldn't be able to see the names of them, so you wouldn't be able to work out it was slide 17. So it just depends on the type of information. For me, if I were using a text-only thing, if I was using Evernote, I wouldn't bother, because it would be like, well, what's the point? I can do it, but what does it enable me to do? This enables me to share it with Mike. It enables him or I to eyeball a slide and say, okay, it was after hours 174, slide 26. So if we're talking about that line of duty one, that's 27. And I can instantly go to it if I need a copy of it or I want to put it in another presentation. But I don't do anything just because I can. I do it for a reason. And in this case, that gives Mike access that he wouldn't otherwise have. So that is embedding videos, putting images in. What else have we got? Now, these are all the embeds from these services that you can hook into. So if you have a document on Google Drive and you want to have an editable copy of it in Notion, where it writes back to it, you can put the thing straight in from Google Drive. You can put tweets in, which are mainly for reference. I mean, you might want to look at a tweet rather than actually do anything with it. I never bother with this. I just find it too much friction. I don't really need to do that. I might put a link into something, but I wouldn't actually embed the thing and try and work with it. We did try it once. Do you remember that? We tried it once with that burn down spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make it full screen, and it insisted on it only showing half of the first. It's like, no, leave it alone. Just put a link in and do that. If you want to see what that looks like, over here, I do that as well. So when it's finished, we have the show summary to make. So Mike whips through it and creates that. And I take that and turn it into this underneath, which is the show summary, which is clickable. That is Markdown. You'll see there, Google Spreadsheet. That is just a link to a Google Spreadsheet. It is just the link. I am not embedding it in here. It's going to take me 2 seconds to click it and open it and do what I need to do. So there's the shows. Looks like I haven't got the bottom of that. Let me do a full thing here. There is last week's show. Oh, did I not? No, that's this week's show. There's last week's show. And that is how I put that together. So it's just a link to it. I don't need to embed it. It's just a link to it. Right, let's get that back over there and go back over here. So I don't tend to embed stuff, but there's lots of things if you want to. If you want to do that, you've got a million things that you can embed. So that is what happens when you put a /. Oh, and you've got some advanced stuff down here as well. It considers toggles advanced. I don't. But you can put in a table of contents for a page. You've got template buttons. You can put in breadcrumbs, all of these stuff. They're just different controls. One thing they added was these columns, which I thought, why on earth do you need to do that? But apparently people couldn't manage to do it without. So if I show you what 3 columns looks like, if I put 3 columns in, it technically should have put 3 columns in. So if I go in there and put 1, then I go in there and put 2 and click wildly over here and put 3, I've got things that are next to each other. You can do that anyway. I don't know why that is such a thing. Let me show you. 1 and 2 and 3. In fact, no, we'll put them on separate lines. So there's 2 and there's 3. Right, these blocks are movable. Now, what most people do is pick up number 2 and try and put it next to number 1. And it goes above, it goes below, doesn't go next to it. No, that's because you have to do it right at the other end. And that would put them next to each other. There's a trick to this that's much easier. Work backwards. And so grab 2 and put it in front of 3, and then grab 1 and put it in front of 2. And you don't have to fiddle around on the right-hand side where you can't see what you're doing. You just put it next to the number that you can see or the text that you can see. So although you can put 3 columns in by doing a /3 columns, you can also do it manually. Now, all of that is great, but all of that takes time. So these templates are there to save you time. There's no magic in these that you can't do yourself. Now, that's not true with something like Word. In Word, you can get templates from Microsoft, and there's all kinds of magic going on inside them that you probably couldn't create. But with these, they're just prefabricated starting points for you. And there's lots of them. So it comes up with some suggested at the top, which are like the common ones. And I open this up and you can see how many it considers like lifestyle. So if I wanted to create a reading list of books that I wanted to read in the new year, that would be a great way of doing it. What we're actually looking at is a picture. And if that's something that you want to use, you just click Get Template. So before we go in and do it, this is going to be a page which has a graphic at the top. It has a title and an icon. It then has one table, which is that bit there. But it also has all of these views of that table. Now, how long would that take you to build? It wouldn't take me that long, but then I've been at this for 4 years. But if you're just starting out, you would probably have no idea how to create something like that. But the template is there for you to use. So just look at it, click Get Template. It adds it in over here. It says Reading List. Yes, that was the dog. She wants to drag you outside. She's probably found that fox again. She found a fox this morning, don't ask. The whole thing is there. It's all self-contained in a page, but that has saved you hours of work. Each one of these could be the same level as this note. The thing is, it's in a table, so it's subordinate to it. Nothing to stop you, though, with, let's say, Crime and Punishment. You could drag that out of there and it be a page. I'd have to drag it up here. But I could do that if I wanted to. So Crime and Punishment is now there. Not the best demonstration, maybe, but it's there. So this is probably where you're aiming if you're thinking of Notion. If you've seen Notion, this is probably where you're aiming rather than the Evernote clone side of it. Now, we were looking at notes, so I'm going to go back to the template. And while there are amazing things in here, so it's a new year, habit tracking is a good idea, isn't it? You can create a new budget for the new year. Again, these are tables. Maybe you're planning some travel. We're not, but you might be. Or starting journaling. You can create a journal in there. Now, I'm interested more in notes, so I'm going to go down here and there's one-to-one notes. But when you look at this, this is like a one-to-one meeting with your line manager or whatever. That's not really what I'm looking at. And I look at these and I've got a team wiki. Well, Mike and I have a team wiki. We have several wikis. Well, no, we have one table that's a wiki, but within it, we have information about MacBites, we have household stuff, and we have views of it. So we filter it. But I'm looking for just notes, just a basic note. So if I go to the top and I type in note, that's better. Am I looking for class notes? Well, let's have a look what they look like. If you're in education, your notes are in here with the class listed, the type of thing it was, anything that's referred to, when it was created, whether you've reviewed it or not. There's Cornell notes. So if you want notes where you've got two columns with the keywords down the side, the notes down the right-hand side and a summary at the bottom, that is there for you. But how about just quick notes, just general notes? That looks better. So what this has got is it's got the heading ones, the heading twos, it's got text in it, it's got to-do list in it, it's got subpages in it, and it's got some embedded links in it. And you don't have to do the layout. So I'll click Get Template. It will add it over here. And this is what that looks like. Oh, you don't? That's just a starting point. That is just a starting point. But let's say that that's my notes about Evernote. Evernote notes. Right. Evernote notes. And what I'm going to do is go back and do the same thing again. So go to the templates, put in note, and make a second quick note, and we'll say that this is my notes about Obsidian. Obsidian notes. I can also from here right click and duplicate that. So now I've got a copy of it, and this one is going to be my Notion notes. Right, I'm doing this to show you this is the tent principle. This is good enough until your requirements change and you need something more complex to manage things. But that is how you use the templates in there. Right, he's abandoned me, so I've no idea what's going on in the chat. He'll be back in a second, at which point we'll take questions if there is. I think he's coming back. This is because she's dragged him around the garden. But let me have a look. Oh, patience. That's a good question. You had someone tell you don't space twice after a sentence. Oh, I hate that. Oh, when I get the church newsletter, that's one of the things I have to go through. It drives me insane because it stops the layout working. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right, okay. So we've got the basics of this at this point. If you want to have all your notes listed down here, that's fine. Do that. If you want to be a bit more organised, you can take these notes from here and put them in your notebook, one at a time, dragging them up there, and now they're in your notebook. And they're just listed under here. They are now subpages of your notebook, so you can get to exactly the same information. You've just moved where they are. But I think your ultimate aim is something a bit better and something you will have seen Notion do. So what I'm going to do there is / and let's say we want a table. Now when I type in table, it offers me three things. It offers me a simple table, a table view, or a table of contents. Now a simple table is literally just a simple table. You put information in that cell, that one. I think there's some basic adding up these days. You can add extra columns to it. This is when you would use this when you want an overview of something, where you don't want a heavy table with multiple records in it. It's just like cells in Excel. But that is not what we want if we want to create a system like we have with MacBites for things like this. What we want to put in there is a database with a table view. So, as I've said, all the views can be in any database. This is just going to create one starting point. So I'm going to click on there, and it's saying select a data source. And I do have some data sources in here from previous demonstrations that I've delivered. But we want this to be a new database called Notebook. Are you going to let me do that? Yep, create a new database. And that is what it looks like. So this bit at the top is telling me what view I have. This bit is the database name. And this is actually the database. It's not pointing somewhere else. It is the database. A more advanced thing that I did was I created an engine room and I put all the original databases in there. The reason that I did that was you used to be able to not take views of a database and transfer them between databases, which I think they say they've now addressed. So the engine room I still would find useful, but it's a lot more flexible than it used to be. But that's advanced. So this is my table and it has 3 records in it. As I hover over it, these are the 3 records. The records have 2 properties. They have a name and they have tags. Now these 3, if I wanted to add new notes, so let's say on this one, these were going to be my Devon Think notes, then that's how I would create it. I would just type it in. Now you might be thinking, yes, but that doesn't look like these. No, but there's an open, and when you open it, this is what that note looks like. And the beauty of this is that the notes that you made during your tent phase, when good enough was good enough, can be added to your castle phase when you've got the database to add them to. So all you need to do is select those 3 that we have there, pick them up and drag them into your database. And now they're no longer independent pages, they're records within this database, but everything that was inside them is still there. Absolutely everything. Now, if you couldn't do that, if you had to start with a database to end up with a database, then the tent and the castle principle wouldn't apply. But because you can drag these things in and out, so if I then decide, well, my Dev and Think notes were never a page, but if I wanted them to be a page, just drag it out. And you can see there, well, actually, it's saying that's in the trash. It didn't used to do that. What are you doing? What are you doing? You used to let me drag that out. That's going to be a big problem if it doesn't anymore. And it won't undo either. Oh, don't you love it when it does that in a demo? I wonder what would happen if I drag it back in. Will you drag the page in? Oh, you will. Awesome. It didn't used to do that. It used to let me drag it out. That's very interesting. It's very interesting because I've actually got solutions that require me to drag pages in and out, and I haven't seen them broken. So I don't know what it's thinking it's doing there, but technically you should be able to do that. Right, so this is the principle that I've got on all the things I do. I very seldom create a page at this level like this. I would tend to have the page inside a database. Right, what are the benefits of having that inside a database? Well, it's the metadata that you can apply. So if we open this Evernote Notes and look at it, there's something missing there. In fact, there's two things missing that, as far as I'm concerned, are completely critical when you're making notes. What are they, Mike? Let's see if anything's permeated. He looks like a rabbit caught in the headlights. What two pieces of meta do you need about any notes that you take?
Date.
Yes.
Time.
No. Unless time is important, but I can't see it.
Don't know.
Well, you could say source or you could say context. Why are you making the notes? Where did they come from? Because if you make notes and you put down the date and you don't put down the URL of the YouTube video you made them from, there's not much point, is there? So I always put some elements of context. You could, anywhere in here, you could just literally just grab it like this, move that down and put it there. You know, the date the notes were made, the source.
Patience says date.
Date is critical, more critical than you would imagine. Because, you know, when you take notes, and if you want a deeper dive on note types like fleeting notes and reference notes and permanent notes, then let me know. But fleeting notes, fleeting notes are the fastest notes that you can take. They're the kind of thing you write in a post-it note, which I did last night, and I didn't put the date on it. But that was because I knew I would be dealing with that note today or yesterday. So it didn't really need a date. But it's good practice to put a date and a source or a context in any note, because future you will thank past you for having the foresight to do that, rather than you look at these notes and think, where did these come from and when did I write them, and try and carbon date them looking forward in the notebook and back in the notebook so you can find something that's like, oh look, 3 pages before they were my notes from WWDC, so these notes were probably made in June, and then it'll be what year. So it's easier at the point that you create them to just add that information. The power of putting it in a database is that rather than seeing these things in here and looking at these and having to open one and look at the date, look at the source, close it, open the next one, look at the date, look at the source, close it, is add it at the database level. So I'm going to make this database just full width. I'm making the page wider. The reason I'm doing that is so I can edit the table. So I have a plus here, and that plus is going to let me add a new property in this database. So if I want to add a date, I would click date, and we have a format. It says full date, but I would want that to be date, month, year. And if I'm putting time in it, which I'm not, then I want that to be 24 hours. And that's it. I've now got a date property in here. So what date were these made? So let's say I made those on the 27th, and these on the 29th, and these today, 30th. I think it got that. And the Dev and Think notes on the 30th as well. And now I can see with these, and you know, these are different dates for different notes. But if I had 5 different sets of notes about Evernote, it would make sense to start with the newest and work backwards. because the newest is likely to be more accurate. So having that date in there is a brilliant way of tracking the context of it. And the other one would be a URL. So I'm choosing a URL type. That's presupposing that these notes have a source that is a clickable source. But it can't do any harm to have a URL. No, I don't want you to do that. I'm trying to click away. Right. So I've got a URL that I can now add to it as well. And that is how it works with a database. But you can take this much, much further than that. So I will show you that in my database, because otherwise we're just dragging in rubbish so you can see it. But the stuff that's in the MacBites thing is real. So if something's broken, it's going to be very embarrassing, isn't it? But this is what a database looks like. And databases are the key feature of Notion. The absolute key feature. So once you've got your basics done in terms of the pages, and you've got the content of the pages, the toggles, the bulleted lists, the checklists, all of that, databases are the thing that you put the other notes into. And the power that databases gives you is totally amazing. So do we have any questions on that?
No,
I'm seeing something from Kim.
We do have Kim saying the beauty of this Notion tutorial is I finally understand what you're talking about. The first time I was lost in the weeds, now it's so much easier.
I think there's so much involved in Notion that it never hurts to go back to the beginning and rethink stuff, which is how come our stuff is iterating the whole of the time. They've also added so many new features that some of those new features could change radically the design of your databases or your system for the better, obviously. If they bring a feature out and it's like, yeah, that's nice, but it is of no benefit to me, then I wouldn't change the database. But if they bring a feature out and it's like, that could save me like an hour a week, then I may take 2 or 3 hours to deploy it, knowing that the return on that is going to be worth it. And the more, sometimes, if you do it in a linear way, you're learning Notion in a linear way. You're quite right, Kim. You start off at the beginning and it's like, how does that affect that? And what on earth is that? When you get to the end and you go back to the beginning, everything hopefully clicks together. So do we have no questions on that, do we not?
No.
Oh, Pandemonium says my work colleagues often leave notes, but don't take them. Don't cancel them off once they're actioned. Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible, but it happens. I actually said to Mike the other day, I needed a Post-it note to stick on something to know that it was done. And I was out of Post-it notes. So the only Post-it note I had no sticky on the top. So I thought I'll put the amount on it, but I'll date it later. And needless to say, I didn't. And now I had to go crawling to Mike because he's the one who knows what date the thing was done. So that won't be happening again. That was very embarrassing. Right. If you want more on Notion, if you want more details on Notion, then let me know. Let me know what you're doing with it. Let me know what you're trying to do with it. Let me know what you've got now and what improvements you're looking to make to it. And we will maybe take another look at it. Let me know. Let me know. And if you'd rather see another notes app, Evernote, Obsidian, Devon Think, whatever, let me know that as well. And it can all go in the melting pot. Right. I'm going to come out to the freebie, which hopefully is still free at this point. It was due to not be free today. But I checked this before we went live and it was still free. So I mentioned this in November. And it went from free to $20. Well, it's back on free, but only till today. So literally, it's off on the 30th. It's going back to $20 today. But if you've not had that, try that link. And fingers crossed it's still free. Is Mike going to tell me it's still free?
It's still free.
Excellent. Right. So get it in the next hour and a half. If it's beyond that and you're watching on catch up, give it a go. I have no idea if it would be free again. Right, so that's the first thing. So it's a book from Dickie and Cole, who run Ship 30. And I'm starting Ship 30 in the next week. So that's the first thing. That is a full book, and it is the system that they teach in Ship 30. So it's for creating any kind of written content, but their approach is very different to anybody else's I've ever seen. And it works. So it's definitely worth downloading and having a look. The next thing is also from them, and it's a variation on a theme. They have put online completely for free, I think it's 16,000 words, this, of how to start writing online. So this one outlines the 8 frameworks that they teach in Ship 30. It's a huge, long blog post. But if you scroll down towards the bottom, a pop-up will appear and you will get the opportunity to download it as a PDF. So that's why I'm mentioning it, because it's basically another free book. And I rate their stuff, or I wouldn't be about to go on my 6th cruise with them. In fact, I've just upgraded today as well. I am now on the yacht plan. So that gives me access to more of their content. So I definitely think they're worth it. Right.
A couple of people have said it's the one that you shared a couple of weeks ago.
It is, and that's the same one. The first one is the same book, it's just that it's on offer again for nothing. The second one is not the same one. The second one is a completely different thing that they've done. So it's a huge long blog post written as a guide to their 8 frameworks, but you can get a PDF of it if you sign up to the newsletter, which you can then unsubscribe from, I suppose. But their stuff is very, very good, is what I'm saying. Right, have we got any other questions? Because you disappeared and I couldn't see the questions.
No, Pandemonium's going because she's working tomorrow.
Oh dear. Oh dear, dear, dear. Okay, so moving on to behind the scenes of the 2022 MacBites Advent Calendar. So this is showing you Notion in action. So we've got the basics of Notion. This is quite an advanced system that we put together because it makes the difference between being able to do it and not. I was reading something from somebody who was saying, get your act together for next year, get your content creation to the right level. And when I read it, I nearly fell off the chair laughing. It was a plan that they were going to sell you to create, wait for it, 12 pieces of content in a year. And I'm like, really? I do more than that in a week. But for the systems we've put in place, we wouldn't be able to do it either. So, we have the Advent promotion every year. It actually started, I think it was 2009. And it was a code, wasn't it? A code. Well, hang on a minute, talking of codes. Did I put that in or am I putting it? No, I'm putting it in later. Right, I'm just seeing what I'm doing here. If I knew what I was doing, I'd be dangerous. It was a code that we gave you to reduce the price of something, of our stuff. And then we took it completely free. So now it's gifts galore. So we finished it on Christmas Day. And now you will understand that is a Notion table. That one says comms. But we actually have a table that is dedicated to managing the Advent promotions. The whole system uses 2 apps. Primarily, we are in Notion. I'm in Notion, Mike's in Notion. I am in Scrivener. Scrivener is not multiplayer. Mike is not in Scrivener. But Scrivener is where the mails are actually created and then they are exported. So I will show you the whole thing that we do. And the idea of that this will also demonstrate Notion better as well. So somewhere I had my Notion thing. I think it was here, didn't I? So this is my live system. So let's get back to where we need to be to demonstrate this, which is MacBites 2.0. So MacBites 2.0 is a page. It might look like it's more than a page, but it's not. It's a page. That's it. And it lives in the shared space, which is there, which we call Giles Thomas. So we have Giles Thomas, and within that, we have a sub-page for each area that we work in. And MacBites, obviously, is a busy enough thing for us that we have a dedicated page to it. It's called 2.0 because 1.0 was a nightmare, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know why MacBites 1.0 was a nightmare?
No.
I tried to build a castle when I should have built a tent. So MacBites 2.0 started and it was a tent. It was like, what do you need? You don't put anything in there trying to be clever. What do you need? And I built it up from there. And that's why it makes a perfect castle now. Because it worked, Gaull's Law, as a tent. So we are looking in here at the Advent content. So what I have open, that's my default view of that. I have upcoming shows. And the upcoming shows, R2M is a view. R2W is a view. R2M is a rolling 2 months, and R2W is a rolling 2 weeks. So that is 2 months worth of MacBites After Hours. That is a list view of a database. And you can see it's brought back 8 shows. Inside that database, there are over 2,500 items. It used to be the MacBites database. It used to have just the MacBite shows in it. But we realised that you can't what's called union query 2 tables in Notion. So if we put After Hours in one table and MacBites in another and Marooned in another and the MacBites Lives in a fourth, I wouldn't be able to create a view that showed me all those shows. So we created a MacBites table and it had all the MacBite shows in it. We then had another problem, which was MacBites is content that we create, and so are our blogs, and so are our live streams, so are our YouTube videos. So we had a separate system for all that lot, and again, we couldn't create a unified view of all our work. So the MacBites table has now been renamed totally. It's content creation. It's got all my stuff in it, all Mike's stuff in it, so there's over 2,500 records. But it doesn't matter how many records are in the underlying table. You are able to focus precisely on just what you want. Where it comes from is irrelevant. So that's how that rolling 2 months filters that for shows back by 28 days and forward by 28 days. Then we've got content from MacBites the book, still working on that. We've got the Newbie's Guide content. So this is stuff we're putting up on the site as and when. And you can see we've got bullet points are complete, but they need writing. We've got, these are ready to check and post. We've got stuff that's posted, and all of this is posted as well. So all of that is in there. It would make sense that that had a tick in it, wouldn't it? Because it's on the site. That's interesting. I've no idea why that isn't ticked, but it should be. So each of these has a full show management as well. So these are the upcoming shows. These are toggles. All I've done with them is put a pretty icon at the beginning and change the colour. And as we open them up, they have a full management view as well. So if I'm focusing on After Hours, I would go up there and I would click that. I haven't created this page yet, but that's what I would do with it. The Advent calendar does have. I'm going to fold these up and open this. Initially, we were managing it from in here. This is a database. This one is, believe it or not, the date you're looking at that there. And these records are coming from the same table as the After Hours shows are. So these we consider to be at the same level as a MacBite show. And it's got everything in there. So it's a database with an all view, but the all view is limited to the Advent things. It also has a table view in there. So who's responsible for it and the status of it. But in here, I leave that at a list view. All I was interested in was it complete or did somebody need to do something? Now, towards the end of it, I'm like, okay, we've got 7 days to go. What's outstanding and what can I do? And I needed something more detailed than this view in here, which is where the full Advent calendar management view came into play, which is just another page, a sub-page of this page. So if you remember back to the basic one, where we had Note 2 embedded in Note 1 and Note 3 embedded in Note 2, this is a page embedded in this page. So I'll click Full Management View. And this was what I pretty much had open for the whole of December. So I have added a graphic to the top, a page cover, and it has an icon. The icon's really useful as far as I'm concerned, because the icon that you add here, you see in your sidebar or your tab bar in your browser. So rather than just see the Notion icon or a blank page icon, I can't tell one from the other. I know it's the calendar management one because it's got that icon. So it's there maybe to prettify it, but it serves a purpose as well. This view that we've got on there looks identical, and it is identical. This is pulling from the same table, but it's doing more than that. Because it's got different views. This is the list view, but on the other one, we had a list view and a table view. And in here, we've got a lot more going on. These things are sub-pages. These are small affinity bite-sized tips, which are in the secrets books. So that's how I manage the content of the secrets books. And these were extras that if one of these was no longer free or something, we've got some extra stuff to go to. But what we're concentrating on here is this, because this is the table with all the stuff in it and how we manage it. So that's the list view when I'm working in it. But to be honest, I wouldn't use a list view that was full screen on something like this. When I'm in the full management view, it's because I want to use other views. Now this one, everything is complete, but I'm sure you can imagine when we were working on it, there were things that were not complete. There was an idea, it was in progress, it wasn't started. So the board view, when you're working with it, is great. When it's complete like this, the board view is not actually that useful. But that's what we did when we wanted to see the status of something. There is also the table view. The table view is probably the one I work in the most. And this tells me, obviously it's got the titles on here, but it also tells me who is responsible for it. So if it's not finished and it's one of mine, I need to get my finger out. If it's one of Mike's, I need to poke him with a stick. So it's useful to see that information. Now I know we have the date at the beginning of this or in the middle of the name, but it also makes complete sense to add a date that is going live, and then we can sort by that date or filter for a date. This field here is calculated. So it has a symbol next to it to indicate it's a calculation, which is this sigma sign. And what it does, it looks at the value in the live date field and it tells me the day that represents. So we started on a Thursday, we finished on Christmas Day, which was a Sunday. That is actually handy because although, don't know about you, but when it's Christmas, I have no idea what day it is. No idea. I did quite well this year, but usually I have no idea. You know, I'll be saying to Mike, what day is it? And he'll be, just a minute, let me check my watch, let me check my phone. So it is actually quite handy to have that date shown there. Obviously, the next one is the status. We call that status plus because it's a new data type in Notion. So if you're watching those old videos from 2020 and 2021, there is now a dedicated status field. Obviously, we had, did I mention the 2,500 records in there? Thanks for that, Notion. I can't convert a field into another field without potentially losing data. So what I did was I created another field called status. You used to be able to do that. You can't do it anymore. So I needed the status field to have a fractionally different name. So I called it status plus, and that indicates it's been updated. It's the new status. It's the new Notion status. How I did that was I added the field and then I filtered the first status field for complete or not complete or work in progress. And I drag filled the status plus. And that is how I did it for 2,500 records. So I could delete the original status. So if you want a status on something, use the correct data type because there now is a dedicated one. And for us in there, we have a hard hold, an idea, commissioned and not started. All of those are under to do. So this comes from Kanban. To do, in progress, complete. Or to do, doing, done from GTD language. So our in progress is in progress or paused. We've started it, but we've paused it for some reason. It's not active. And then complete means it's complete, but it could also mean I need to follow up. Maybe I need to archive that or make some notes somewhere about it. But it's complete and the thing has gone. So these are what our statuses mean. Yours could mean something totally different, but that's the flexibility of the status data type. Now, the next one is the interesting one. This has an arrow on it. So up there is beyond the red arrow, there is a little grey arrow. The little grey arrow means that is a reference to another table, because what we're looking at is our content table filtered for Advent 2022. We do not put our emails in our content table. Our emails are in our comms table, which is why this has an arrow and it says comms. Then in here, it is linked to a record. So this is the actual comms record that I would say to Mike, here's the image, here's this, here's that. And that's the source information for the email. So we'll look at that in a second, but that's what that is there. There are no notes that we've added to this, but there may have been while we were working. And there is the fourth view, which is the pretty one. This is the gallery view. There it is. And the images are the headers that we use for the email that you see. So obviously, when I created those about 3-4 years ago, it was agonising. There I was with 25 artboards trying to create them. But once they're created, it's the same every year. And they're already there. They're already automated, automatic. The whole thing's done. And what this shows us is the title of it, the image. It shows it's complete. It shows the date and it shows the day. You can choose to show other information in there if you want, because all of these views are editable, but that's enough information for what we need. Now that view is probably superfluous, to be honest, but this is Notion all over for you. It's like, oh, I can build this view and it's so pretty. I don't use it, but it's pretty. The only time that gets used is when I'm taking the screenshots for the presentations. So, you know, it was worth doing. And the thing is, I don't have to recreate this next year. I'll just alter the filter and all the views will work. Everything will just work. Oh, it'd be grand. So I'm back to our table view in here. So inside these, this is just metadata that we're looking at, but inside these, they will have other information. So there's the workbook, an embedded PDF, and there is the link to the workbook that I would need for the email. If we look at the other metadata we've got, duration, that was because we have MacBite shows in here, and for those I need a duration. But I don't need a duration for this, do I? So we just ignore it. A show title, don't need that either because it's not a show. That's there because of where this is stored. Now, if that bothers you, if your OCD won't let you do that, then you're going to need separate tables. But be warned, separate tables, you cannot join the information in hindsight. So that's why I'd rather try and squeeze it into one table that gives me more flexibility. We've got the date it went live. We've got the status plus there. There's any notes. The URL, I could have put this URL in there, but we don't use that because it's really the URL of a video or an audio file. This is the show notes URL, but we don't really have any show notes for this either. The content type, being MacBites Advent, enables us to filter in here. Now, there's lots of ways I could have filtered that. I could have filtered it for Advent 2022. I could have used the content type here, but you'll notice that wouldn't have filtered properly. It wouldn't have filtered for 2022. It would only filter it for Advent content, but that's what it is. And our recording notes, but this isn't a podcast. So a lot of this data, not relevant. But seen as though you get to decide what data is shown in the table, it doesn't matter, just ignore it. And then you can do what we've done, which is put these things in the same table, and it's easier to work with entirely. Now, one of these things, we've got 11 more properties that's hidden. These are things that we don't need to fiddle with. But one of them is the comms. And that is linked to an item in the comms table. So if I click on that, it will load in that item. And it's got the date, it's got the day it went, it's got the time it was sent, it's got the fact it was sent, it's got the list it was sent to, it's got the show it's related to, which isn't a show. So maybe we need to change that title to something like Content Unit. But that is the link back to this record in our content table. So it's a bidirectional link. We did have an editorial calendar. We don't use that anymore. it wasn't a dirty hack. It was the only way to make it work until we decided we would just rejig the entire thing. I've left it there just in case, but I will probably delete it. Then you have the Aweber link, which is the link to the sent mail. So if somebody says I missed that mail, we can go in here, we can copy that and paste the link, and then they've got access to the mail. So in fact, I could do that now, couldn't I? I could copy that and I could put it in there, and somebody could tell me if that works. Does it take you to the mail? It should do. Fingers crossed, hey? In fact, I could click it and we'd find out, but let's leave it alone. Right. In there, the key is this MacBites show in here that's showing. So let me show you what that table looks like. So let's go back. I'm going to open this in another tab.
Yes, it does.
Oh, good. Isn't it nice when something works? Right, I have clicked that, and hopefully we'll go forward to that. Right. And I'll take that down so we can see it all. Right. We have a comms view here. So this is the same level as the Advent calendar view on a different table. This is the comms view. We go into the comms. These are the comms for Advent. So we have a view in here that is Advent 2022. This is the gallery view. We have, is this a list view? That's a table view of it. We also have last year's. It'll look the same, but the dates will be last year's. We even have Advent 2020. And I can just go back and look at these. Now, what's actually in these, when we open it up, is very little. It's the image that's used as the cover image at the top of each one, except when Mike deletes it. But he was severely reprimanded for that.
Yep.
Oh, he was. Don't delete me images, Mike. And then underneath that, we have a file, which is a HTML file. If I open the HTML file, did it download that? What did you do with it? I think it may have downloaded it. Let's have a look, see what it did with it. Did you download it? Oh, you did. Awesome. So I'm going to preview that. And that's the actual mail. So we're going to move on to how I create this. But it actually gets stored in Notion. So Mike doesn't have to say to me what was in that mail or whatever. There's a copy of it in here. If there's a mistake in it, and it's a tiny spelling mistake, Mike will just fix it and then tell me. And then that gets sent out. So we are looking at two completely different tables in here. So I need to get back to the comms, don't I? No. Oh, that's all our comms. Oh, look at that. That's all the stuff that has to go out and stuff. When was this? That was in December. Those were all the mails we sent in December. That's the calendar view. As you can see, don't know about you, Mike. I don't use the calendar view that much.
No, I don't.
No, it drives me insane. But if you want a calendar view, hey ho, there's a calendar view. Right. Can we move backwards? If we move backwards and get back to some semblance of normality. Right. So that's the comms view. So how it actually works from MacBites 2.0, which is our dashboard, into our full calendar management, and we'll pick up like the whole haul, and there isn't even actually anything in there because we didn't need to add anything. That was everything on Christmas Day. But what we would do to link it to the actual mail is click the plus on here, and you can then attach it to a mail. And look, we've got Adobe Bridge from 2021 and we've got marooned. So what I would do is I would filter that. So I'd be looking to filter it for Advent, and it would be a 2022, and it would be the 25th. And then that filters it down to 1, and then I would connect it like that. And that is how that works. So what questions have you got?
One am I just about to put in. Are you using the Mac app or the web app?
I'm using the web app. The reason being, I use Vivaldi. So I have pinned tabs for all the places that I want to be. They have just added multiple tabs to the Mac app, so I could use that. But also notice that tonight I've been using 2 different accounts as well. And you can only be signed in to one account in the app. It actually makes very little difference. I just prefer the flexibility of a browser with my pinned tabs.
Carol asked earlier, can you do something similar to MacBites 2.0 for a weekly newsletter?
Yes, absolutely. What we've got handles everything. The comms are separate. The comms could be considered to be content creation and therefore put them in the content creation table. It's just historic that they're second, that we consider them separate. But it doesn't matter what the content is. So at the MacBites 2.0 level, it's not a podcast. It's not the live show. It's everything. MacBites 2.0 is a dashboard. And we've built it out in terms of you can view just the MacBite shows from the left-hand side. You can view just the after hours, the MacBites marooned, and the lives. But also in here, I have additional views. So on deck is stuff I'm working on. How does something get put on I'm working on it? Well, if you noticed in the after hours, let's have a look at this one, which is last week's, and we'll make it large so we can see it all. This also has all these things in. So in here, these are the comms. So there's a mail sent, there's a tweet sent, all the rest of it. They've got all the content items, but I don't normally see that. I hide that lot. And then in here, we've got all the stuff that I manage it with. But this is actually the content items. So the week at MacBites headquarters, we looked at the Notion AI thing. We looked at QR Code Factory. All of those in there. So this is a big show. But those Advent things were just a tiny mail. So the MacBites level is a dashboard. The rest of it is subordinate to that, which is the shows. So what else have I got on there? After hours planning, no idea what we put in there. Content items are the individual content items that go inside a show. So what I mean by that is the session that we're doing right now would say Notion Advent 2022. The next one we're going to look at is how I set it up for Ship 30. We have a pre-record system. Don't ask, it's complicated, but that's in there as well. The comms are in there, all the chat logs are in there. Meeting notes and about MacBites is a view in there. The wiki is in there. So our wiki is for everything we do. But in here, this is a gallery view, and this is all MacBites stuff. If you look at the orange tag in here, that's MacBites, it's about design. That's MacBites, it's a checklist. That's MacBites, it's a workflow. But it comes from a much bigger table, but it is filtered for only MacBites content. So when you say at the 2.0 level, this is a grouped gallery one, where, you know, if I'm looking for a hack or something that I've got in there. Oh, that was when Divi broke. I remember that well. But that's what we do with it. The MacBites 2.0 level is the highest level for MacBites content. So if you have, I would suspect that your newsletter was part of what you produce. So maybe the MacBites 2.0 level should be your content creation system. And then within that, have a page for your newsletter. But absolutely, you can create the newsletter in there. And that's what we do with the comms one. So the comms table is where that is. But it wouldn't matter. You could have it available from the same content creation table. It just depends on how you want to build it. But yes, you absolutely could. Do we have anything else?
No.
Right. Okay. So we will move on from that one to the next bit, which is when we've worked together on it, when I know what needs to be included. So if we find one of Mike's, like he's got numbers on an iPad here. So if I click on that note, you'll see I've got the link that Mike has provided. That's where it is on our S3 space. He's put in a code block, and the reason that text is in a code block is Notion does its own thing with text, and I just want to copy it. I don't want to have to fiddle around and make selections of multiple paragraphs. I just want to hit copy, and now I've copied it. And that is the image that is needed to put in the email. So I didn't create any of that, Mike did. I'm now at the point where I need to create the email. Now the email itself is going to be linked in here as a comms item. and I can click that to go straight to it. And you can see that's the standard day 5 image, and there is the email that was created. So if we click that, that's what I expected it to do, but you know, it's doing its own thing. It's downloading it. I will preview it again, and that's what the day 5 one looked like. The 2 paragraphs of text are what I've just copied. There's the image, and there is a download button, and the action behind that is going to point to that file, that PDF. And then you've got the rest of the mail. So, that we don't do that in Notion. We take the information from Notion and we use Scrivener for that. And I don't think this system has changed since time immemorial, to be honest. But what I've got in here is a Scrivener file. There's no extensions or anything going on with it. It is just a basic Scrivener file that I have added content to. So I have my inbox. If I want to put something in here and I don't know where it goes, or I haven't got time to put it there, it goes in the inbox. The admin stuff is things like the style guide for the newsletter formatting and what the compile settings need to be. Then I have a content library. So I've got posters, I've got links, I've got quirks, and I've got the archive and Advent freebies. Then I've got the actual mails themselves, which are in there. That mails section is mails to my VIP list and MacBites and anything else we send on a weekly basis. But stuff does get archived elsewhere. Like this one, I have Advent days, because the Advent days, we want to see them listed. So these are all the Advent mails, and they're together. The mails in here are what's sent on a weekly basis. So the mails that were sent on week 49 were those 2. Let's have a look what went on week 50. Oh, a lot more went on week 50. So these are the mails. So if I click on one of these, this is actually the mail. It doesn't look quite the same. Let's find one with a download. Like this will come through as a bulleted list, but it's not bulleted in here. It's all done with magic when it compiles. That join us right now. Well, you've seen what the button looks like. That's what it looks like in Scrivener. So those are the mails. But the Advent mails are part of MacBites, which is in here. And these do go back to 2014 in here. Prior to that, we were using a different system, but they do go back to 2014. 2014 didn't end well. So we've got day 1. You'll notice it's very different. It's written in Markdown. This was before I managed to get the compile to create the whole thing. And it was error prone, wasn't it, Mike? It used to drive us mad because every opening bracket needed a closing bracket and there was too many mistakes. But as you can see, they are all there going back. Up to day 10. No, day 10 didn't have it. Day 8. Day 8 had something. And it's fascinating for me to look back at this. One, to see how it's developed and improved. But you'll notice that there are icons in here. Day 1 to 8 indicates there's content. 9 and 10 look like index cards. That's indicating there's something in the synopsis, but there isn't actually any content in here. So this one was going to be the Great Pivot Table Treasure Hunt, and this one was going to be designing with Sketch 3. You'll wonder why they're blank, as is 11, 12 and so forth, but that was the year that my mother took ill. So we ended up on day 19 sending a mail that I remember handwriting in a filofax with a pen while I was nursing her, and I remember giving it to you and you typed it up. And we had to backfill it into here. So this goes back a long, long way. But this year is what we're interested in. So all I need to do is go into here and write the mail, and I get the URLs, download your copy today, download the workbook, and put that in the right place, and rinse and repeat. And all of these have the image already in place, the title already in place. Everything else gets added as and when, including all of the graphics, anything like we're announcing after hours. And I have a whole system going on with the colour coding. So if something is not started, I think... oh no, it's in Notion. This one was ready to go. And it was ready to go early. But I haven't marked this off as complete. So I've got down here a whole status thing. It's either not started, work in progress, ready to schedule, it's in Notion, or it's been sent. And obviously that has now been sent. So I can mark that as green. And that is how we create the mails. So if I wanted to get this over to Mike to send, in terms of, we've created mails in many, 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 many different ways. And some ways are better than others. This is painless. All I need to do is a standard compile. Well, a standard compile, but it's a custom compile. So I tell it I want a MacBites mail over here, and the magic is built into it. So can we, let's edit the format. All of this is where the magic happens. So I've got like a text section and what I want in it and how I want it to look. The most important thing in here is, it's not replacements, is it? Oh, it's a while since I looked at this. Right, like this. So I've put some code in here. The external links need to be wrapped in tags. That's the opening tag, that's the closing tag, that's the opening tag, that's the closing tab. And I will need to replace the images with text, and I'm telling it where to find the images. And what's happening there is that is basically like search and replace, find and replace at the point of compile. So I don't have to do it manually. And I think I've got some other stuff going on in here. Oh, it needs to be a mail. So it needs to look like a mail. So all of this content at the top, all of that code is injected into my text-based output that you can see in Scrivener. All of that gets put before my content. All of this at the bottom gets put after my content. And that is what turns it into an email. So if I compile that and we stick it, well, normally it goes in comms, but that would only confuse Mike today. So I'll put it on the desktop and you can see it's going to append a HTML extension and it's going to open the compile document in Brave. Why do I open it in Brave? Because I don't want it opening in anything else. Brave never has any pages open. So at some point, Brave should open. Looks like it has. Where have you stuck it? Oh, it's having a think about it. And I will show it to you. It opens it up on the other screen. But that is what I end up with. So let's take that full screen. And it pops out a perfect email, with all the graphics referenced, all the links referenced, any extras referenced. And all of that was done with a compile that, you've created the compile and that's it. You don't need to create anything else. You just take that HTML file, copy and paste it into whoever sends your email, and you are done. So that is how we do it. I am seeing we have no more questions at that point.
We have no more questions.
Right, so I'm going to minimise that. We are heading back into here, but first of all, we'll go over here, because the next thing I'm going to show you is more on Notion. It's Notion night, but how I am preparing for Ship 30. So Ship 30 for 30 is something I joined in June 2021. And I must admit, thought twice about it and thought, you can write for 30 days. You don't need that accountability. My first cruise was tricky, because you have no idea at the beginning how much organisation you're going to need. Trust me, you are going to need organisation. But once you've got the organisation, everything else follows from that organisation. You can actually enjoy the trip. So you are supposed to write what they call an atomic essay every day for 30 days. You have a supportive community. You also have 10 sessions with the two guys that run it, Dickie and Cole. Those sessions are exemplary. The content is amazing. So I did it in June 2021 and I'm heading off for January 2023. So at the end of my, need to say, you pay for a cohort. You pay for those 30 days. At the end of those 30 days, you get an option to join what's called the Captain's Table. And the Captain's Table is like a membership for 12 months. So instead of paying per cohort, which would bankrupt you, you get all of the cohorts for the year, and you also get access to their mastermind sessions, which are once a week, which again are absolutely exemplary. and other content, other courses that you can take as and when you are ready to take them and take your content to the next level. So there is a link that Mike will put in, and next to the link there is a code. If you use that link and you apply that code, you will get a $100 discount if you want to join me in January on the next cruise. So this is how I prepare for something like that and how I would use Notion to do it. So I have a page open. Would that I could see my page. So let me go see the page.
Carol wants to know how much is the captain's table.
Can you find that out? Because I'm grandfathered. I've got a feeling there's two options. Let me get into there and then come out of there again. I don't want to underestimate it. I think it could be about 1,000. Mike will find out, hopefully. Right, don't need the sidebar, so we'll get rid of the sidebar again. I have this, which is a table for all my cohorts inside my content creation dashboard. So Carol was saying, would my newsletter be at the level of MacBites 2.0? Not necessarily. If you consider your newsletter to be part of your content creation, then content creation would be at the level of MacBites 2.0. Right, I then created a table. And I created this, let's have a look. When's this going back to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this goes back to my upcoming cohort and 4 of my previous cohorts. You will notice the one that is missing. The one that's missing was the first one. To say I was all over the place was an understatement. So I realised at the end of the first cohort that life would have been a whole lot simpler if I'd built a solution for it. And that was what I did. So obviously I have put in a database. When I started off, it would have been for this one, which was the first cohort that I did this with. So all of these, it started on the 23rd of April. And I was doing, what was this? Oh, this was productivity in apps things. So this was 30 days. You can write whatever you like. If your thing is underwater basket weaving, write about that. The 10 sessions that you get will help you write better headlines, write more focused content, generate ideas. That's what the sessions are for. But the actual content that you write is this kind of stuff. So what I picked was, they said write about what you know. So all of these, the next 29 days, were me talking about apps. So how to screencast on a budget, screen capture, shortcuts, my keyboard when it met with a cup of tea and then met with a shower. So I didn't have this planned out in hand. My theme was anything tech related for that one. But when it got to August, I decided, no, which August is this? It's this August, isn't it? No, yeah, it is. This one was the A to Z of Affinity Publisher. And what I'll say with it is, I sit down with a view to writing it, and then it's like that's going to take 2 or 3 essays. In October, I did Scrivener, and that was because it was NaNoWriMo. But everything is in there. So I always put Scrivener at the beginning of it, and then I've got what my content was. Why have I got 2 here for these? Oh, I've got 2 different views, that's why. Right, so this one, what I wanted to have was the framework. I think the last thing you want to be doing when you're in the middle of a 30-day thing is to have to create another one, because I might come up with an idea for day 17 and I want somewhere to put it. This is actually pretty simple in terms of what I've got. So let's open it up. I have the cohort at the top. And if we go into there, the cohorts go back to June 2021. And every time there's another cohort, I would add that into here as an option to select. Then there's the date. Now I've got that down as the 1st because that's what they told me. But that's not actually right. I don't think we're shipping until the 7th. Can you work back 30 days from the 5th of February? I think it's the 7th. I will show you what I would do in relation to that, because if these are wrongly dated, I also am bone idle, and I don't want to go through there and fix them one by one. Life's too short. I could go through and fix them, some with what I've got, basically, or I could start from scratch, but I'll show you that. The next thing I've got is the day number, and it's text, it's not a number. If it was a number, I won't be able to have the 0, and I need the 0, so that's text-based. Now, all of these are blank until the day that I'm working. Now, I actually have something applied on here. I've applied a template, but I've left the rest so I can show you how I do it. So the little anchor symbol is telling me this isn't shipped. If we look at one of the previous ones, you'll notice that they've all got the ship at the beginning. So if I open that up, that first one, that's what it looks like when it's complete. I have the ship so I know it's shipped. I have the cohort, I have the date, and I have the day. And then all of these are filled in because I've got my TypeShare link, I've got my Twitter link, I will create a Twitter thread and I will put a link into the thread. I will post it on LinkedIn, I will post it on Medium, and if I put it on my blog, I will put that in there as well. And what's the one that's hidden? Tags, because I never use them, but I left it there. Below the fold, which is the term I use for content that is within one of the items, but not part of the metadata. So anything below the fold, below the comment, that is to do with this and only this post. So that is the tweet. Do you want to write, get a head start and write a studio? I've got my hashtags in there. Then I've got this is my day one tweet. And then I've got this one, which is promoting the app that I'm talking about, which is Scrivener. So those are my 3 tweets. They are in code blocks. So again, I can just copy, and then I paste where I need them. This is a graphic. This is what the application called TypeShare builds for you. So your atomic essay on Twitter is a graphic that is produced. Can we see that a bit bigger? We used to be able to. I don't want to download it. I want it to be bigger. There we go. So that you write into TypeShare. Now, I don't write into TypeShare to start with. What I do is I write it in Obsidian. I don't want to get this complicated with why I use certain apps, but Obsidian is beautiful for writing and it gives me a word count. Once I'm happy with it, I then post it into TypeShare and I take a copy of the text and put it into here. But TypeShare turns it into that. So we can see the title, you can see my name, you can see the title of the piece, which, what is Scrivener, which is a heading. I've got quotes in there, I've got bullets in there, I've got bold in there. They will teach you as part of the system how to format something so it looks engaging to read, not a wall of text. And if you follow along, even if you don't join the cohort, if you follow along the content people create, you can see the days after which they've sat through the formatting one, because everything suddenly turns into bullet points and bolds and quotes, whereas like 2 days before it was a wall of text. So that is what that looks like, and that goes out as part of the tweet. If I do any specific research, I put it under my bullet points here, my toggle headings, and then this is that, but it's copyable. I can copy and paste that from there. You can see this is a quote. The bit at the beginning is a quote. And remember me saying to you when we looked at the very beginning with Notion, when you copy and paste it out, it understands Markdown. So I copy and paste it from there straight into TypeShare, and it says, that bit's bold, that bit's bullets, and I have very little to do in the way of formatting. And then you post it. So that's what one looks like when it's complete. Now, obviously, my 2023-01 not complete yet, but I probably want it to look something like that one, I would have thought. So let's see how this works. I don't want to move it. Let me copy all of that or not? Probably not, but it'll be a nice starting point. So I'm just copying that. I'm going to go into day one. Right. So I'll make this full width so we can look at it. Oh, actually, day one's got some stuff in it, hasn't it? It's got the research, it's got the line underneath it, it's got somewhere to put the image, and it's got some stuff up there. Only that should be ship 30 for 30, not ship 30 for 3. Okay, that's not bad. In fact, that's probably a better starting point. So I'll take that as a starting point and show you how I would turn that into a template. So that's day 1. Let's go back and get day 2. What I would do, because this says Scrivener, right, and that was my last one. I think with this one, I'll probably do some stuff in the new Affinity. So I would imagine that that's going to be Affinity Publisher, and I would probably hashtag it extra stuff like Affinity version 2 and anything else that's relevant. And anytime I tweet, it's going to have those tags on it and I am not going to need to think about it. But if we look at number 2, it's blank. There's nothing there. What it does have is 2 templates. It's got metadata and it's got one called shipped. So in the metadata here, I'm going to click on the ... and click on edit and have a look at it. So this is what I want all of these to be based on, and I want the anchor symbol. So all I have to do is click on there. That will go out to here and you choose what you want. So you can see I've got the ship. The anchor doesn't look like it's one of the most recently used because I haven't used it since the last cohort. But it'll do. The anchor's in there. And I've called it metadata. This is not the October cohort. So I need to choose the January one instead. I'll specify the date at the point that I do it, and I don't know any of these at the moment. But down here, I need to make some changes. So the stuff that I've done, I'm going to wipe this out. And we'll put the other one in so I can show you editing it. Let's have a look how that works. Because if you paste stuff in... Oh, they've fixed that. Right. I will show you from scratch because obviously I've got... let's put it down here. Right. I've got these blocks and they're in columns. So I did show you, you could put in there 2 columns by doing /2, and that has created 2 columns. I then need a code block, so /code, and put a code block in. I can go into here and make that plain text or whatever I want. Go over to the other side, and that one needs to be an image. So I need to put an image in there. But I haven't got the image at the moment, so I put a placeholder in for that. Back over this side, at that point, I need another code block. So let's put one of those in. Not in the right place because it's gone full screen. So if I take that and move it up to there, it puts it underneath in that column. And then I need a third code block. So I would do the same or duplicate this one. So duplicate that and it pops it underneath. Then I have a toggle for research. So I want a toggle to heading and put that in as research. The last thing I've got in there is a line underneath it. And I put that in with 3 minus signs and then I'm good to go. And in there, I would then put the text. But obviously, like I'm saying, I do have these in here to remind me what needs to be in there. So I've done it manually so you've seen me do it. Let's get rid of that. But what I will do is fix this one. So that one's actually got a 30 on, so it was me. Right, Affinity Publisher and hashtag Affinity version 2. Right. I'm probably not going to need this one all the time. This is if I was talking about an application and I wanted to put a link in. But I'll leave it because what I might do is if I'm talking about styles, I might put a link into my video. On the day that it actually happens, I come in and change the X's. I come in and change that to the right day and I put the title of what I've written. And then I am good to go. So that template is about right. So I'm going to move backwards. That takes me into here. This is day 2 and it doesn't have everything set up properly. As it happens, it does have the cohort correct. The reason the cohort's correct is because this is a filtered view and the cohort has to be correct to make it work. But if you only have a table and you've not got any cohorts in it yet, then you don't need to worry about this. You can apply this template. So if I hit metadata, it will fill everything out that I need. So one thing it did do was put the anchor in. And it's filled in this at the bottom, so I'm ready to go. So that's what I do to all of these. So if I happen to know on day 10, I've got some notes to put in, I will come in here, I will hit metadata. Let's say I'm talking about styles, and I call my essay Get Stylish. Then I put that in at that point. I'm not going to know the URL because that's going to come from somewhere else. But if I know what I want to say in the tweet, then put it in. If I know what I'm going to say, then it'll go under here. The entire essay will appear under there. And that is how I do that. Once it's shipped, so if we go back to day 1, let's say day 1 had shipped. I would manually then indicate, I would paste all the stuff in here, but to indicate it's shipped, I go up to there and I click the ship icon, and that gives me a visual that it's done. You'll notice there's no status in here. I have no status. It's either done or it's not done. And to indicate to me it's done, it makes sense to me to have a little icon. I could put a checkbox in, but I might as well have the visual icon. Another thing I started doing was if I was between shipping it, I'd started it, but I hadn't shipped it, I used a different icon. And so if we look at day 3, let's say with day 3, I've started writing it. So I put my metadata in. That gives me somewhere to put my content. And I've started writing it and I want to indicate that. And I use this one, which is a speedboat, which is like, you know, you're travelling out to the cruise liner, but you're not quite there yet, but you're not back in port anchored either. It's just a little quirk of mine, but it works for me. You've got to gamify these things where you can. But it also serves a purpose because it gives you over here, when you're looking at it, a visual of, oh, I've obviously started that. Can I progress it in any way? Can I do anything with it? And that's what I do that for. And that is how I manage Ship 30. Again, this is one of those things that if you were trying to do it manually, I mean, I think when I first started, it was like, oh, it makes sense. I'll do it in Scrivener. That made no sense whatsoever because I didn't understand Markdown. You can write in Markdown in Scrivener, but there's no help whatsoever. And then you've got a page full of Markdown. Then I thought, no, I'll put it in Notion, but I didn't have a table. And so it was, I'll just throw it in a page, which is why cohort 1 isn't in there. My first shipping isn't in there because I have no idea where anything is. But that told me, you know, you need to get a grip on this. And I remember I've got 2 friends that I met in Build a Second Brain, and they both came on Ship 30 with me last time. And I said, whatever you do, be organised from day 1. Do not just throw notes somewhere thinking you'll find them. Just organise it day 1. And the thing is, at the end of it, I mean, if you miss a day, it's not a disaster. Dickie and Cole will say, if you miss a day, don't miss 2. The aim of the game, of course, is to be on the leaderboard at the end of it and having shipped every day and done every task. So there's little tasks as you go through it as well. You know, post a post here or tell us why you've done that there. And when you do that, you get a little badge. And the idea is that you collect all the badges. I know, but it works. Trust me, at the end of it, you'll be much more confident. And like I say, the content's very, very good. So that is how I organise it. Anybody done it? Do you organise it a different way? I think I've done it that many times now, I know what I need. So it now takes me to post it, it takes about 5 minutes. To write it, anywhere between 10 minutes to like 50 minutes, depending on what it is. A lot of mine, if we go back to that one, which was the last one, a lot of mine were not quite long, but, you know, like, I have to think about it because I have to think about it a lot because I'm trying to squeeze in information into 250 to 350 words. And you'll find that you'll end up with a paragraph that's beautiful, but you've not got room for it. So you're going to have to chunk it down, chunk it down, chunk it down. If you are looking at that and you are thinking, what happened to day 19? It does not mean that I didn't ship. Oh, I did. And it was a nightmare and I'm never doing it again. Day 19 was a nightmare because I decided I would do a Twitter thread. So rather than post one thing, I was posting like 7 tiny chunks. So there is a system to do this in TypeShare, and I did it in TypeShare, and it didn't register that it posted. So I did another post, but I've not backfilled it into here because it was like 10 to midnight, and I'm like, it's not registered. So it had posted to Twitter, but the system they used to track it would have had me missing a day. So I wrote one of these posts that was, fluff my life. It didn't post, so now I've got to write another thing to tell you that it didn't post. So this one will post, and it was just so funny. I got so much engagement on that one, but I didn't backfill it, and that's why day 19 has a different icon entirely. But even something like that, I wouldn't have been able to say to you, oh, it was day 19, and I would have remembered I had a problem with one. I wouldn't have known when or anything. So this tracking system, it will make the difference between being able to ship all 30 days and not. Said the old veteran sailor. So I know Carol's doing it. Is anybody else doing it? Do you have any questions about that in relation to Notion or in relation to Ship 30? And who else is doing it? Oh, Carol, wouldn't it be good if we got to buddy up? There's a buddy system. You say match me, and you get buddied up with somebody, and you need to do that 4 times to collect all your badges. It would be so funny if we got buddied up together. I think we should pay them a little bit more and get buddied up.
Carol put a question in earlier. She said, do you have to do the same subject for the whole cohort?
No. What I found is that my first cohort, I did random stuff, literally random stuff. I would sit down at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon with like, what am I writing today? And have no idea. So I found the plotting and the planning more difficult than the actual writing. Once I knew what I was writing, it was the simple matter of writing it and shipping it. So what I did for the second cohort was... What's this? No, I think there was another cohort that doesn't look like I've backfilled it. But I decided that I would do Vivaldi, 30 days to becoming a Vivaldi lover. And I mentally went through the features of Vivaldi that spoke to me. And again, it was a really useful thing to do because you don't often have to truncate what you're saying. If it's going to take, 1,000 words to say what you're going to say, then that's what you do. But when you've got no more than 350 because it won't fit on the page, you have to be brutal with the edit, and that's what it teaches you. So I think I learnt more in that one about the edit because of the topic that I'd picked. But many, many people have either a very broad idea or they're writing a particular thing. So if they've got an application or a device that they sell, they'll write 30 posts about why it's amazing. Other people just pick random things. I would say most people have some overarching theme, but maybe not. So for me, the level of overarching theme we're talking about is, for me, it would be tech. But I may, if I'm giving myself any tech to go at, one could be about publisher, one could be about Notion, one could be about training, that kind of thing. So it's just the stuff I'm interested in. I go a little bit tighter on that. So at the end of it, my posts on my A to Z of Affinity Publisher, I could just copy and paste them into a publisher file, and I've got a mini book. So I personally think theming it quite tightly has a benefit in terms of what you can create down the line. They do talk about this extensively on the course, that you think, I've spoken about Affinity Publisher and can't mention it again because everyone's read it. And the fact is they've not. And if they have, they've forgotten it. So I think this time I will do Affinity Publisher because that's what I'm working with most at the moment. It won't be the A to Z of it. It will be more in terms, that was just, there is this feature. I think this time it will probably be more tips and tricks and dirty hacks, things that we like. I find it easier with a theme, but if you want to write about, next door's cat, that's absolutely fine. You can write about anything. You're learning to improve your writing. What you actually write about is secondary. I think people tend to think what they write about is critical to people reading it. No, that's not true. The example we give is like when we're watching a video on YouTube and there was a video that I stumbled across. It said, do you want to watch this? And I said to Mike, oh, this video is amazing. And I'm busy explaining it. And it was basically a guy who'd bought a broken metal toy, like a Tonka toy, from eBay and fixed it. I am never going to fix metal toys, but I still sat and watched the video. And people will sit and they will read your stuff irrespective of what the topic is. If they know, like, and trust you, or they're interested in the topic, or you wrote something yesterday and they like that, so they'll sit and read it today. So it just depends on what you prefer. I prefer to have a theme of some description. But, by about day 18, I can be very grumpy because I want to do a different thing. So I don't know whether I'll tell anybody what my theme is or whether I'll just keep it quiet. But no, you don't need to. Patience is quite right there. The engagement of the audience is more important than the content in some ways. It is. We mentioned that today, didn't we? What were we talking about in terms of that? That conversation we had that you've probably totally forgotten, and I can't remember the gist of it either. But basically, like, people either have a hobby horse that they keep talking about, or they're just talking about their stuff, but it's whether it resonates with you. And it could be the content that resonates with you. I consume content from people, and half of what they produce drives me crazy. It's like, that's garbage. I don't want to hear that. That's rubbish. But the other half is like, makes me think. So people will consume your stuff for many, many, many reasons. And it doesn't always have to be the actual content. Sometimes the way somebody thinks about it, the way somebody puts something across is utterly amazing, and it might be something that you never thought you would watch. I know another one I mentioned to you. It was a girl, and she did kind of craft stuff, but particularly she must have had experience binding books. And this video popped up because I'd watched another video. I had an ambience video on. So I don't know if you've seen these, but it's like, there's a video and there's like music in the background, very low. And it was Harry Potter's Hogwarts. And I'd watched this video. I just had this video on as like a library theme while I was working, which I love. And because I'd watched it, it said you might want to watch this. And this craft expert had hardback versions of the Harry Potter books, took the hardback cover off and recovered them in leather with all the embossing and the gold leafing, the lot. And I sat and I watched it. Am I doing that anytime soon? No. But she was very engaging and I wanted to see the finished product. That's how people are with Ship 30. There's a great community. Obviously, the community extends every time it runs. So, the idea is if you follow other people and you put likes on their stuff, they'll start reading your stuff and then you get the community supporting you as well. So that's how it works. I see, is there a question?
There is a question.
This is the notes one, isn't it, Peter? I haven't forgotten. I still haven't forgotten. I promise. I haven't forgotten. The trick with it is I need a decent file, and I've been putting together other stuff for the Advent promotion and stuff. I promise you I will do it. Shall I put a date on that? Shall I say by the end of January?
Okay.
Or shall I give myself more wiggle room? No, I've got to do it soon. I promise I will do that. I promise. Right, what else have we got? Oh, what's Renee got? Metal machining videos. You'll never touch anything. That's it, but sometimes it's fascinating. If you really want to watch like an interesting video in terms of like it's just fascinating to watch, there's a whole raft of people on YouTube that fix broken toys. And we're talking toys from years and years ago. Basically metal toys from that era. And they are rusted away. Some of them have got like no roof. I said to Mike, one of them was like a wheel and half an axle. And the guy knew where it was from and he showed you this picture and I'm like, never on this planet are you going to turn that rusted heap into that. And when he'd done, it looked better than the original. It was stunning. And I was saying to Mike, there's no way that an average person could do this because they're using powdered paint that turns into high lacquer paint that needs to be in a paint oven with all kinds of other stuff and acid to strip the old paint. There's no way it would be worth it to just restore one thing. These are experts doing that. But it is fascinating to watch when you get to the end of it. And the one that got me was after I'd watched one, you know YouTube, you've watched this You once looked at a kitten. Would you like to watch these 47 cat videos? And because I'd watched one of these restoration things, it offered me another one, and I nearly cried. It was a Winnebago. It was a Tonka toy Winnebago from the mid-70s. And it was in a pretty bad state. But they were restoring it. And the reason I nearly cried was that was my Christmas present in 1977 or 78 from my mum and dad. And the thing was, we'd been out and we had, we were on holiday, and there was a toy in the window of this big department store, and I wanted it, but it was something like £18. And my entire holiday money was £30. It was £2 a day while we were on holiday. And mum and dad treating me, doing the right thing, I'll be honest, was if you wanted to buy something and it was more than the money that you had, you didn't get the £30 at the beginning of the holiday. And I had to save up the £30 from my pocket money. But I could only have £2 a day. So if I wanted something on day 2 that cost £8, I was going to have to wait. So this toy was in the window and it was like a big caravan thing, and I wanted it. So mum said, well, you save it up for 9 days and you can have it. So 9 days later, I'd not so much as had a bar of rock because I was saving these £2. There I am with £18 in my pocket. We turn up at this massive department store, look in the window, and the toy's gone. So she said, I'll go in and I'll check. She went in, they'd sold it, they didn't have any more. Ooh, I was not a happy bunny. I now had £18 that I couldn't spend, and I was really peeved. So this was the end of August that year. It took me weeks to get over it. I was probably unbearable, because what am I like because I'd done my bit, I'd saved the money. And I heard her say to Dad, when they thought I was asleep, because at this stage I was about 9, I heard her say to Dad, I should have loaned her the money and got her to pay it me back, because now there's no toy. She had rung round every department store she could find on the Fylde Coast, and she could not find one of these toys. So months went by and it came to Christmas. And I gets up on Christmas morning and there's a box there. And she said, that's the last one you're opening. So I'm opening all of the other toys. And I was itching to get to this box. And I opened this box and it was a caravan thing. It was this Winnebago. But it wasn't the same one. The one that they had in the store was plastic, and it was it wasn't great, but I was a kid and I wanted it. This one was a full Tonka thing with working everything. It had working steering in it. It had working seats in it. It had collapsible seats that changed to beds in the back. It was amazing. And the poor woman, it cost her more than twice what the other one would have done. But she couldn't take it any longer either. So to see this thing, I still have mine. It's in the loft in its original packaging. To see this thing being restored, it was amazing. So yeah, people watch and consume stuff for very many different reasons, don't they? Oh, you fancy going on a dirty hat cruise? That'd work, wouldn't it? I'm liking that. Okay, if we have no more questions on that, then let's get through. So if you want to join me in January, Michael put the link and the code in to save $100. It is really, really good fun, and I've learnt a lot from it. Some courses that I've done, I wouldn't do again, let's put it like that, but I'm still cruising and I'm still enjoying it. And I told you today I upgraded to the yacht package. So they have various levels of captain's table. So when you've done it once, the most cost-effective way to carry on is to join the captain's table. Do you ever find the price for that?
No.
I'll try and find it. And let you know. Beyond the captain's table, there are various levels of the captain's table. So there's the speedboat level. There's the next one. I can't remember for the life of me what that one's called. But the yacht level is the top level. There is a course there. It's 3 extra courses that you get. And we're talking fully fledged courses with done for you templates and all that kind of thing. I didn't opt for that one because it was £7,500 and I thought Mike could have a fit. So I didn't opt for that, but I did upgrade today. I actually won. They had a competition at Christmas. You had to opt in, but there were some prizes and I won. So I upgraded. So I'm a happy bunny. I'm a very, very happy bunny. I'm definitely there for at least another year or a year and a half, put it like that. So if you'd like to join me, that would be great. If you do, let me know and then I can read your stuff. Right, what have we got coming up? You'll like this. You'll wonder why. Renee will wonder why I'm mentioning this. Yes, the Emirates FA Cup. Why is this pertinent? Let me tell you. because Manchester United have drawn Everton next Friday night. They are clearly unaware of our schedule. So in order that Mike can enjoy the game, suffer a third round humiliation, delete as applicable, without an audience, we've moved the show. Which way do you think it's going to go, Mike? Third round humiliation.
Probably.
No, I think they'll win. There you go. So the next show is a Saturday night, but I know some of you prefer Saturday nights. So there will be no excuse for missing the show. We will send a reminder. I will remind you on Twitter it's Saturday night. It's generally not a working day, so no excuse for missing the show. We've given you plenty of notice, and you should not be at the gym on a Saturday. It's unnatural. I hope you're listening, Jamie. Right, we've still got the Affinity Photo and the Affinity Photo for iPad, which I'm looking to get done by the middle of January. And then we can look at some other stuff. Available on demand, you will find everything. That is youtube.com/Elaine Giles or /@Elaine Giles, apparently. And there is our After Hours playlist where you will find everything, including the Notion 2020 and 2021 stuff, which you will find at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. If you love us, please give us a like, because it makes a difference. Also helps when people hit the dislike before I've even started. Nothing like, cheering you up before you start, is there? But anyway, that one disappeared, so not to worry. There is also my list, which is elainegiles.com/VIP, where you will get notification of all the stuff that I do first. And there is the MacBites list. I know the Advent thing's over, but, we do send out mails about MacBites After Hours, and you wouldn't want to miss them. We are also in Slack. Well, when I say we, I've been very dilatory in Slack at the moment. But, in my defence, I've been building stuff for the Advent thing. But Slack is where we carry on the conversation. And if you would like to join us, I'll be back in there soon. So macbites.co.uk/Slack. So let's pop that up and see if we've got any more questions.
No, Jamie says the gym closes earlier at the weekend, so...
No, you see, isn't that, like I say, it's unnatural.
Yeah.
Yes, you shouldn't be doing that at the gym. That reminds me of, do you remember when Diana died? And Mum wanted something from the shops, and all the shops were going to be shut. And I had to ring Asda and say, I know you're open 24 hours, but what are your opening hours on Saturday? You feel like that's a stupid question if you're open 24 hours. No, it's unnatural at the weekend. Don't do it at the weekend. It wouldn't end well. Oh, look at that. Renee says, thanks at Mike Thomas and Elaine Giles. You're great. So are you, Renee. Thank you very much. Right. What else have we got in terms of questions and things?
That is it.
Okay. Oh, I'm liking this working vacations, tax-free. Liking that. Oh, you're not going 4K, Renee. You are not going 4K for the new year. That was what we were fiddling with you, wasn't it? Trying to get 4K video. Shall we just say a silk purse out of a sow's ear?
Yeah.
Is that a British saying, or is that something that's said abroad? Let me know. It basically means create something wonderful out of not much. Silk purse, sow's ear. Oh, and Renee's heading off to watch some restoration videos. They're stunning. The stuff they do is amazing. I'd recommend try restoration of toys and pick one that's got red in it. When you see the paint in the oven, and they actually show you the paint in the oven, this powdered paint turns to the most beautiful lacquer in seconds. It's amazing. I could watch those all day, but I have to stop myself or I wouldn't get anything else done. Do you know, I looked at something the other day on Amazon, and before I knew it, YouTube had offered me a load of videos about it.
Oh.
This is why I watch stuff that I don't want it to say, do you want to watch this? I watch in an incognito window with adverts, which is ludicrous, isn't it? But I don't want them to be coming back and saying, you watch this, here's another 5,000 of those. I just want to see the stuff I want to see, which would be my true crime stuff. And there's a couple of dogs on there that are very funny, aren't they? And I love that. Right, okay.
Jamie's asked a question.
Okay. Where you go, Mike?
I'd already put it in the action items. Something for the future. Vectormator.
Yes, it's a free thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can look at that. There was another one as well that somebody recommended. And somebody in one of the chats that I was looking at was saying, is this feature in Affinity Designer? And the answer at the time was no, but that was version 1. I can't remember what the feature was. And somebody else came back and said, oh, I've given up on Designer. I've switched to this and it's free. And I'm like, I would be surprised at switching from something like Designer to something that's free. But I must suspend my disbelief and have a look at it, mustn't I? Do you remember that thing we ran? We ran a Vector Basics 101 and it was a 4-week course. And we looked at 4 different apps, didn't we? There was Sketch. Sketch was fabulous in its day. It then went subscription and weird. It's very powerful, great for teams, but the licensing's shocking. But there was Sketch, Affinity Designer, and this was when Affinity Designer was brand new. It'd been out like a week. An Illustrator. Now, what was the 4th? It was a free one, and it used to come from Autodesk. Was it called?
Something Draws.
I think originally it was called Something Draw, and they changed the name to Graphic. And I'm like, you want locking up? You know, why don't you call your app something that's unique when I search for it? Like, you know, Rumpelstiltskin's best app. Something really unique. It annoys me with Apple when you're looking for something for Apple Photos. They changed the name of the app to when it was iPhoto, you could look for iPhoto and you knew that the results you would get would be about iPhoto. If I put in Apple or Photos, I get garbage back. That's nothing to do with it. And I think they called this app Graphic. It had a name before it, so like you would have Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, because I mean some people were saying I don't know how they get away with it because of Microsoft Publisher, but you can't copyright the word publisher. That's why there's another name at the beginning. But to call this thing Graphic, I think it was Autodesk, but don't quote me. So we did those 4 apps and it was great. So never any harm looking at others. Oh, and that other one we did, what was that called? The one with a weird name that you could pronounce one of 2 ways. Oh, it had a bird as the logo. I'm going to have to go and have a look at it, aren't I? I'm going to have to go and find it and see if it's still available. It was in the App Store. So if I go to the App Store and I look up Vector apps, where have you disappeared to? Ah, there you are. Right, let's try Vector app. Vector. Not that Vector was in the name, but let's see if it's still there. There's Vectornator. So that's what, there it is, Graphic. Look at it. Now, when was it last updated? But that was actually quite a nice app. That was nice. How much is it? Is it still a paid for thing? Oh, yeah, abandoned. Well, 4 years since the last update. That's sad because that was nice. Now, what was the other one called? That was one of them that we did. We'd never done Vectornator, but we can do. Inkscape's another one. That's free. Oh, I'm not seeing it there. Come on. There, no. There it is. Amadine or Amadine, depending on how you pronounce it. I think it's Amadine. I've got that. So I didn't get it through the App Store. I think I actually bought it when it was reduced. But when we did the demonstration of it, the way that it snaps to the grid and the guides is amazing. I wish I didn't have to incant with Affinity Designer. That the snapping was fabulous on that. And it was a pretty decent app. Oh, that was updated a week ago. Might be time to have another look at that. Anybody looked at that? Oh, now you see, look, they've got today, May the 19th, and that's my birthday. So yes, it's definitely time to have another look at that. Sometimes that comes on offer for like $5, $6, something like that, which was what I paid for it, I think. But it is very good. It's a very, very good app. It's just, it's funny, isn't it? You tend to navigate to something that other people use. However good that is, you tend to navigate to something other people use. But that one's pretty good. So let's have a look at the other one that Jimmy mentioned, which is at the top, Vectornator. You see, I've actually got that installed 2 weeks ago. So yeah, that's okay as well. Revolutionary, apparently. Getting close to perfection. Oh, don't you love it? I think as well, I'm quite surprised this hasn't come out before now, but weren't Pixelmator talking about making Vectormator years ago? Years ago, and it never came out. So it would be nice to see that as well. Oh, they've added image cropping. Okay, we'll do a head-to-head with some of these apps. So let me know which ones you use or which ones you'd like to see. That would be good. Okay, we got anything in there? Oh, Real Draw. No, I think when I was using vectors on PC, it was Corel Draw. And, what was the other one? Freehand. Macromedia Freehand. That was gorgeous. Loved that. There was also vector support in Fireworks, I think. But yes, there's quite a few of these apps now, aren't they? This has got content-aware tools and all kinds of stuff in it. So yes, that's a good idea. We'll do that. We will. Right, let's head that back to there. Last call for questions, and then we're going to head off and find something to eat, because I do believe we may not have a Yule log working on the Easter one, but I think we do have mince pies, don't we?
We do.
We've made up for the Yule log with mince pies. So mince pies may be consumed, for which read they will be consumed. Oh, Zara was a good one, until Corel got their hands on it. Zara came out, was it free or was it very inexpensive? But it was a very, very good app, and before you knew it, they'd bought it. There was another one they bought, name of which escapes me. It was a long time after Zara, and it was a company that had put together this really good app, and it was head-to-head with Sketch at the time, only it was free, and there was an account-based thing, so you had to have an account to use it. And obviously that's when the trouble started, because Corel bought it, and then you needed to upgrade this app to this account to a paid-for thing before you could use it. It was like, no, because it was a really good app, and it went away. So they bought it. I mean, if you're buying the competition to terminate it, from a business perspective, I can understand it, but it's not helping the community, and the community have long memories. They do, except me, because I can't remember what it was called. But I will find out this week. There you go. Oh, thank you, Kim. That's lovely. Thank you. We will indeed keep our fingers crossed for a wonderful 2023. Last year, we were a bit grumpy on New Year's Eve, weren't we? Because there's traditions of first footing and things like that. And my mother always had this thing, I don't know where she learnt it from, but there's a thing that involves some bread and some coal and some money, isn't that? And some things come in and some things go out. And Mike and I can never remember what. But if you get it wrong, you're doomed for the year. And last year, I barely got out of the door, didn't I? So Mike mentioned it today, and I said, yeah, could we do that earlier this year? So I know what I'm taking out and what I'm bringing back in. Isn't it something about it can't be a fair-haired person or something? It's not supposed to be a woman either. But never mind. We'll be doing the New Year things tomorrow. Oh dear, Amadine's a subscription on the iPad and the iPhone. This isn't good. If I totaled up my subscriptions, I'd be in coronary care within 5 minutes. So I am not doing that. I am not doing this, especially not with how much I've spent today to join the yacht party. But yes, I see what you mean. Not good. Paint Shop Pro. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, Corel bought that as well. Paint Shop Pro was awesome. When I was on the PC, I had Photoshop, but I never used Photoshop for screen captures. I edited all my screen captures in Paint Shop Pro. And the rationale was Paint Shop Pro had a digital asset management window. And they had that before Adobe had Bridge. And it was so useful to see all the captures that I'd captured for a tutorial or a book that I was writing in one place. It was amazing. Adobe then brought out the same thing for Photoshop. It was a panel in Photoshop that went full screen, and it was like Baby Bridge. They then decided they'd got a winner on their hands here, and they took this panel out of Photoshop and made it Adobe Bridge. And that's where Bridge came from. But for the fact that Paint Shop Pro had that feature, I wonder if we would have Adobe Bridge today. Now, I must admit, Adobe Bridge is great and it's free, but Eagle is where it's at. Eagle is unspeakably fabulous. Unspeakably fabulous. So while I do use Bridge when I'm indexing like photos and I don't particularly want them importing anywhere, Eagle has this thing where it imports it. Eagle has that many features, it's unbelievable. So Eagle is where it's at. We will definitely be having an Eagle session in the new year. Paint Shop was brilliant for creating GIFs too. I didn't do that often. I think I did like one or two. But I certainly remember all of my screen caps were there because of this panel that it had. Do you know, sometimes these apps where they're going subscription and doing all kinds of silly things, they need to look back at what worked years ago and build that in before they think about subscriptions and stuff. Subscriptions work for some things, and I don't mind if there's an element of cloud service with it where they're paying for it and therefore I have to pay for it. Don't mind that at all. But it's when they get silly with it. There's another one this week apparently. Go and do the Googles on YouTube for Filmora. And there's a guy done a couple of videos, and they basically had, according to him, this lifetime license. And he's gone through the legal thing, and this was a lifetime license. And they binned them. And I thought, well, it's okay to bin a lifetime license, just don't sell any more. No, they've binned the lifetime licenses. And I thought, what? Like, you can't use it anymore without paying. And apparently, according to this guy, that's what's happening. Now, I've got no knowledge of that because I don't use the thing. But, whoa, that's bad news, isn't it? I think if you've bought a lifetime license for something, if the company shuts down, they don't make that software anymore, fair enough. But if they've just decided that, that's it. My rationale would be, if I'm a punter and I'm using that app, and they did that to me, I'm not buying your license. I'll go use something else because now I don't trust you. But maybe that's just me. Hello, Tracy. Tracy is in the house. Excellent. You're very welcome, SFN. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Right. Okay, then. So the mince pies are calling. The mince pies are calling me. So I will be heading off for something to eat. So for the last time in 2022, I will be saying good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next year. Stay safe, guys.